Hey everyone, and welcome to Comics from the Multiverse, the DC Comics podcast from MailFuzz TV. I am Peter, and I am joined as always by Matt.
Hey, what's up?
And Connor's not here, and he has missed a hell of an episode to miss. Not that it was his choice, his girlfriend arranged a day thing without him really knowing, and he's gone because of that. But not only is he missing the Doomsday Clock this week, we have probably the biggest news week since the Bendis news, and in terms of new book announcements, it's probably the biggest news we've had since like the Dark Matter week of things getting announced. So a lot of big things. So obviously we talk about DC Comics coming up in this week's show when we get to the books. We've got Doomsday Clock number 3, we get Detective Comics 973, Action Comics 996, Wonder Woman 39, The Flash 39, Batgirl 19, Teen Titans 16, and Nightwing The New Order number 6. That's what's coming up book-wise on this week's show. But before that, we do have a lot of news. We have oodles of news. We have I'm actually going to bury the lead. I'm going to put the big news till the end of the news.
As you should.
Yeah, we're going to build up to it. We're going to do all the other things, because this was also a solicits week. We got solicits, and some months come by, we get the solicits, it tells us what's coming up in a few months in the comics, and sometimes there's almost nothing to talk about, because it'll just be all the same books again, there'll be no real changes, maybe it'll be worth mentioning a few part ones of a new arc that might sound interesting, but quite often it'll be uneventful. This was not an uneventful solicits. This was full of interesting tidbits for various reasons.
Yeah, DC just threw a coffee, I was going to say a coffee book on the coffee table, but that's not right. They just threw a big old book on the coffee table, and were just like, here, enjoy. And as far as I know, there's that one big announcement, but all these little tiny ones also. It's just...
Well, that's the thing. Even before we got to the big news this week, which again we're saving to the end, I thought, we already had quite a lot. I thought this is quite a newsy week compared to normal, but so here we go. Before we even get to the solicits, the first thing that popped up actually, which kind of spun out of the solicits because it was notably missing in the solicits, because we knew that March was a skip month for Doomsday Clock. We knew that it was skipping March, and I think August was the other month. It was skipping 2 separate months, but it was not there in the April solicits, and people went, huh, why is it not there? Is this bad? Has it been delayed? And it kind of has, because they then announced, and there was 2 separate announcements. One is that it's changing to every other month, starting with issue 5, which will be in May. So instead of ending at the end of the year in December, it's not going to end now till July 2019. So that feels very far away. So it's going to be a longer process. And then the update to that, the newer news that came out a few days later, was that issue 4, which was meant to be February next month, is now going to be March, which, to be fair, at least means that we're not having a 2-month break after issue 4, because now it's just every other month already. So, silver linings, I suppose. Yeah. It does mean Connor thought he was going to be back for issue 4 next month, and now there's no issue 4 next month until March, so I find that hilarious. But there you go. So
he's so bothered by it, it cracks me up.
Yeah, it's obviously I'm not thrilled at the news, because I like the book a lot, and I'm looking forward to new issues. No one likes things taking longer to come out. But this does mean, of course, that they're adamant that Gary Frank will be not getting any fill-ins, he'll be on the art the entire time, and they're not going to rush him. And because of that, I'm at least happy that it's not going to be compromised in any way. So
I don't like a thing that was meant to be a year going a year and a half, though. That,
of course you don't. But would you rather they had fill-ins?
No, but I wish I could just say Shazam and it's done.
The way it'll make the issues sweeter. That's what I'm going to say to be positive about it. I think, it kind of sucks because you're excited about the next issue, but when it's all done and it's in that nice big deluxe hardcover, which I know that they're going to put out, it's just it'll be more perfect for it. So I guess
I feel spoiled because I always read the first time I read Watchmen, it was in one sitting.
Oh yeah, because
I had the trade, So now having to wait, and with everything that's going on in that book, the wait's killing me. I mean, right now the wait's already killing me, and it just came out on Wednesday.
Yeah, we just got the new issue, and now we need to wait 2 months for the next one. So Hey, it is what it is. It is worth mentioning that both Frank and John's, well, first of all, they both apologised on Twitter. They were very apologetic about it. But the other thing they were saying is that they're hoping that it won't stay like this. They're hoping that when they get ahead enough again, that maybe the last few issues would go back to being monthly. But obviously no promises there, but they're hoping that that's what will happen. So it could end up being a thing where we get to the last 4, and the last 4 will be monthly again.
Boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
Which would be interesting, but that was the unfortunate Doomsday Clock news of the week. Luckily, the book's still great, so more on that later when we're talking about the books. But yeah, so that was the first thing. So that's already meaty, right? So that's the thing. Next up, we had another small delay. This one's much more imminent. It's a small one, it's just a printing error, but the Swamp Thing Winter Special, which is supposed to be out next week, has been delayed a week to February 7th. This is just a printing error, so it's not a big deal. It's just damn, we printed a lot of copies that have something wrong, we have to reprint it, and we'll have it a week later. It sucks to lose something in a week 5, because week 5's a quieter, and then it means week 1 is going to be busier again. But
not this week 5. I peeked ahead and hooey.
Oh yeah, week 5 is busier, but I'd still rather have this in week 5 than the following week 1.
Yeah.
All right, so it's not a big deal, but that's the thing, so be aware of it. And then next after that, this kind of came from solicitors as well, although they kind of announced this separately on the same day. Cyborg, which was going to be cancelled, issue 20 was supposed to be the last issue. It has been uncancelled. It has been revived because Wolfman is Marv Wolfman's coming to the book. He's going to write he's going to write Cyborg.
Wolfman writing Cyborg is the headline, and I had to double take. Just his name in all caps. Just it looks like Wolfman, like the movie, you know. So the fact that he'd be writing something about a cyborg just. You know, my primitive mind sometimes. Yeah,
Sam Lotfi is going to be doing the art, and it's starting with April's Cyborg number 21. So, interesting they decided to keep the numbering. They didn't say, oh, we'll relaunch Cyborg. Yeah. They said, no, we're going to continue the book with the new writer. I guess they're hoping that the legacy writer, who obviously is the creator of Cyborg, will maybe infuse the sales a little bit.
I feel like New 52 tried to build Cyborg up, but they didn't do... I don't want to say they didn't do a good job. They just didn't do as good as they thought they did.
They tried to fast track him, and I don't think that ever works. I feel like trying to retcon him in to be one of the founding members was always going to be a mistake. I think the idea of him building up and eventually joining the team as a new member would be more satisfying as a long-term reader. But hey, so that's interesting. Maybe it'll be worth checking it out in April with the new, with Wolfman on board to see if it's any good. That said, after this week's Teen Titans where he wrote Starfire, I'm not feeling as positive about that. But more on that later. So. That is Wolfman revitalising Cyborg with issue 21. It was supposed to be cancelled, and now it's continuing. So that's the thing. So then I'll get to stuff that actually sticks out to me in the solicits. Had a look through some interesting things, and some news spawned out of some of these things as well. So I'll just briefly mention Batman 44. It sounds like an interesting issue because it splits up Batman and Catwoman. Mikkel Janen's doing the art for one of them, Joelle Jones is doing the art for the other, and it's them looking for... stuff for their wedding. It's wedding planning. So, that is a fun issue. But I thought I'd mention that briefly, and then mention issue 45, which is the same month, because you're getting a Booster Gold arc in Batman.
That's ridiculous.
Are you excited about this, Matt? You're getting Booster Gold again.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I'm always happy to have Booster, but with the announcement of that Last King project, which I can't remember the name of right now.
The grief counseling book.
Yeah. I kind of figured maybe Booster would play a part in that, just because he is unsuspecting. But it seems
it possibly will. Just because he's in this doesn't mean.
But I feel all the teasing that King had been doing with the action figures of Booster and Harley, it's definitely here now. So
yeah, it's worth mentioning that Tony S. Daniel is going to be doing the art for this arc, which takes him off of Damage. Which feels a bit of a shame for Damage, given the main selling point was his art. But however, I am not opposed to having Tony Daniel drawing more Batman. So,
yeah, I love in the solicits too. It says Tony S. Daniel, and then the parentheses Damage, as if that's the only thing he's ever worked on. I love the synergy there.
Yeah. So Batman sounds interesting starting in April, but more juicier than that. we have the solicitation for Green Arrow 39. Why is this juicy, you might ask? Because
Yeah.
upon first glance, you're like, wait a minute, that's not Benjamin Percy's name. This has been written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, with art by Marcio Takara. That's not the usual team. And, of course, and more notably about this one is that it says it's a part 1 of an arc. Although I did find out later that this is only a 2-parter. So basically, what is happening is Benjamin Percy and his associated artists, Faria and Schmidt, are leaving Green Arrow. They are done with issue 38. That is their final issue, and which is a good run. 38 issues is...
Again, we talked about this earlier in the week. Taking it back to the New 52 up till now, he gave us Emmy fighting a dragon. He gave us Ollie as a werewolf, fighting werewolf bikers. He's given us the Ninth Circle. The reunion of Canary and Arrow. So,
as someone who didn't read the New 52 part of the run, just not counting that, even without that, 38 issues is a pretty good run, and I've liked it quite a bit. So, it's a shame to see him go, but he has mentioned on the Twitters that he does have another project lined up at DC that he can't announce yet. So, there's an announcement coming with him on something else later. We'll maybe speculate
and
about
that. He seems super excited about it too.
Oh, he does, yeah. He's still on Teen Titans, of course, so he's still doing that, and he'll be on something else in the near future. But so yeah, but they did confirm, because I was like, oh, maybe this is just the new run here. That is not the case. This is a 2-issue fill-in 2-parter, and the new run would start in June, which did lead me to think that maybe they're setting this up for Bendis. Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know. I was just a guess. I feel like any book that's opening up for a new writer, I feel like we're going to guess Bendis right now until they announce what he's working on. But Green Arrow is... I was going to say, Green Arrow is one of the books that we said he would probably be good on, because it's a street-level crime fighter.
I just look at it now, who else would I want on Green Arrow, and I don't know, and it's not like Benjamin Percy was a guy that I was like, oh yeah, him for Green Arrow. I was just happy that the team from the show were off that book. Yeah, well,
because at the time he'd only done a couple of issues of Detective, I think. At least that's what all I knew him from. So I wouldn't have even recognised his name. So he's clearly he's built some cred with Green Arrow. So we're actually kind of interested in seeing where he goes next. As far as like who's on Green Arrow, if it's not Bendis, I mean maybe it'll be someone else who we don't really know that well, but they'll make a writer out of them, and they'll be, hey, here's this newcomer, or maybe they'll throw someone on who's a bit more known and reliable. But I guess the ultimate thing is we just hope that it's someone good and the book doesn't decline because it's got a new team. But
I got a name coming up that I wouldn't mind saying, but we'll get to that news.
Oh, okay.
No, I want you to get to the other news first.
Oh, right, okay. So, does it tie into later news?
It does.
Okay, right. I understand. So that's cool. And I do hope that Faria and Schmidt are not forgotten either. I hope they're still in the DC camp and are put on other things, because it would be a shame, a crying shame to lose them. But anyway, so next up, again, also interesting in terms of not the usual teams, that team that I just mentioned, Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, and Jorge Corona in the art, are going to be on issue 42 in Nightwing, which is a 1-issue fill-in, and then issue 43 is also a fill-in with Michael Marecci and Minkyu Jung in the art. They're both one-and-dones. I do believe that Humphries is expected back for issue 44, so it looks like he's taken a couple of issues off between arcs.
Nothing against Humphries, but it just seems like Seeley was so in the rut, I guess, of Nightwing, from Grayson on over to now. It's being interrupted constantly. So
yeah, here's so well. No, actually, we got an update. Remember last week we were like trying to decipher who wrote what in the Nightwing issue. Apparently, it was Humphries the entire time. The credit page was really confusing. Someone kind of looked at it and said, "No, I think this is meant to be writer on Flash, or artist on flashbacks," and then that fourth name was the colorist or something like that. But the point is that Nightwing issue had one of the most confusing credits pages I've ever seen, because it wasn't clear who had written what and who did the art for what. It was very confusing. So even with that problematic issue aside, I loved the first 2 issues, and I'm looking forward to more Humphries Nightwing. So with a bit of luck, this is just a couple of fill-ins before we get back to the main run. Because it does sound like at the end of March he'd probably be finishing up this arc, and then it'd be on.
I hope so.
Off for a couple of issues, then back in May, hopefully. That's what the hope is. So that's the thing. Then next up, we had, obviously, this actually came out slightly early, this Deathstroke arc. To be honest, this Deathstroke news was kind of confusing, because when it first got announced, it was like, oh, is this a miniseries? Is Christopher Priest writing a miniseries called Batman vs Deathstroke? Is that what's happening? Mm-hmm. And then the solicits came out, and it turns out to just be the next arc in Deathstroke, starting with issue 30, which is fine. However, the wording in the solicitation text actually makes it more confusing, because this is the wording: Deathstroke vs Batman Part 1, beginning this month, a 6-issue series within a series featuring the ultimate showdown, blah 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 blah. So don't call it a series within a series. That's weird. It's an arc. Just call it an arc.
Okay, well, this is the first time, so I saw that, but this is the first time I'm reading what this is about.
Oh yeah,
and it sounds too damn dumb, but my interest is piqued. Well,
here, so it's worth reading what the premise is based on this first solicit, because it is kind of batshit insane, no pun intended. When Batman discovers a mysterious package containing DNA test results proving that he is not Damian Wayne's biological father, the Darknet sets out his sights on his true father, Deathstroke.
Oh, jeez.
So, first of all, let's get this out of the way. By the end of the arc, we'll find out it's definitely not true, and it is a really silly concept, but I'm willing to give Priest the trust here to deliver something interesting and entertaining. Also, there's a mystery of who sent the package, because it probably wasn't Deathstroke. So, no, it
just
could be fun.
It really goes into that Priest plays the long game, because there was that issue where he dealt with Damian early on in the run.
That's true, yeah.
So,
that's true.
Yeah. Also, it has a Lee Weeks cover, and it looks gorgeous.
That is always worth mentioning, yeah. And then other tidbits from the solicits, not too many more. First of all, I just wanted to mention that Jodie Houser's back co-writing Supergirl. So she was only off it for 1 month, and now she's back with Orlando for issue 20, so that's cool. It is worth mentioning that Trinity number 22 is the last issue of that series. I think that has a lot more to do with the other news we're getting to in a bit, where we're going to have more books. But that is double shipping in April for the last 2 issues, and that's it done. So Robinson's arc, presumably, is just one arc, and then that's the end of it.
I just want to mention Superman real quick. I mean, it's not the newest. But they're doing an arc called Boy Zorro Re-Death, which I'm sure is a play on Rebirth.
Yeah, I saw one of the covers for this. It's basically the Superman #1 cover from Rebirth, but it's Bizarro and like the Bizarro versions of
family
people. Yeah. It was a nice touch.
I'm excited for this to be fun again. Like, Superman's been in such a rut. And I mean that now, that, and kind of a complacency.
That last issue was a good one and done, but it's been a while since we had a good arc. So hopefully, we're getting to that. That said, we'll have an arc before we get to that one, surely starting next issue, I'd imagine. So we'll see. And then the last thing I wanted to mention from the solicits. This is just a weird thing. There's an annual in April, which is bizarre because it's not got a 5th week. There's just an annual on week 4. Randomly. DC doesn't usually do that. DC are usually pretty strict when it comes to their whole, it's 5th weeks get annuals, system. But Titans annual number 2 is out in week 4 of April. Dan Abnett is writing it is the usual thing. And it is the final of the current arc. It's the finale of the arc that's in the book up until that point. Which suggests to me that they want to just get it finished quicker and basically double ship for 1 month. That's what it kind of sounds like to me, and that's why they've shot out this annual when it is. Maybe because they want to start the new arc, because the new arc maybe ties into another book or something the following month, or I don't know. But that would be my guess. And Matt Stiles can shut their goddamn mouths. I'm sick of it.
No, she's like, I'm tired of Titans. I want to read it again. So she's angry.
Go to the pound, Matt. That's all I'm saying. I'm calling the pound.
No, she's probably fighting with the cat, because the cat likes to trap her on the stairs. With the high ground, and then she gets super pissed off and starts going nuts. Yeah, that's what's funny when you have a cat that's bigger than your dog.
Natural superiority. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, it's a little bit weird, but like I say, I think it's just because they want to have the story finished quicker so they can have the next arc tie into something else that's happening or whatever. So not a huge deal, but if you do read Titans, it's worth mentioning. You'll have an extra book to get in April. So with that said, that is all the other news. At least from my rushed collection of it before. If I've missed any small tidbits you think are interesting from the solicits or elsewhere on the web, by all means let us know in the comments, because it's always fun to read the extra little things.
In that Supergirl solicit, you didn't mention there's a character named Viking Judge.
I didn't miss it. I just didn't read the solicitation text.
I know, but you should have at least let me know there's going to be a Viking Judge in Supergirl. Like, get your peanut butter out of my chocolate, sir. Viking Judge in Supergirl. I can't.
That was the most weirdly homoerotic analogy you've ever used.
Well, I mean every word of it. It's fine. I know who I am.
I don't know why my peanut butter's in your chocolate sauce, but
I just mean if you're gonna mix Vikings and Supergirl and extra dimensional stuff, like shut up and take my money. That's probably what I should have said, but I went for the Reese's analogy.
Yeah, no, that's
here we go.
That's fine. So let's get to the big news, the big juicy meaty news that they hit us with yesterday. They basically, obviously we've been speculating for a long time. I think, even if it's not been super audible, is where's Snyder going once Metal's done? Like, that's his DC book done. We know he's doing that mini with that Prestige mini with Murphy. For his last Batman story, but what else is he doing? Is he going to be on an ongoing? Is he going to be doing anything else? And we now kind of know the answer to that. And I think a lot of people have speculated in the past Justice League, although I think since Priest took over Justice League, we were quite happy leaving him there. So that is the unfortunate side effect of this news, is that the regular Justice League book is ending in April, as is Justice League of America. Both of those books are ending with the earlier... I think it's the earlier issues. Let me just double check. April 18th for Justice League. So that's the week 3 issue. And April 11th for JLA. So that's the week 2 issue for that. So they're both ending mid-April to make way for this big new thing that's happening. So what is happening? In May, wouldn't be surprised me if it's the end of April, given that those books are ending a little bit earlier. But in May, we are getting a 4-issue miniseries. I have heard some conflicting reports that it'll just be the Justice League books crossover. It'll just be like Justice League and JLA. But all the sites are saying miniseries to me, so I'll say miniseries, but I just want to put out there that it could be just that. But it doesn't really make much of a difference. The point is, you're getting 4 issues weekly. You get boom, 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 boom. You get 4 issues. It's called Justice League No Justice, which can't be pleasing Batman, because if there's anything I know about Batman, is that he likes his net worth justice to be in the positive.
Justice! Yeah.
So here's what's happening. So upon concluding, so Metal's finishing in March, and then we have this 4-issue miniseries coming in May. It's kicking off in May 9th, apparently. So yeah, ignore my previous speculation. It's coming in May 9th, and it's going to be co-written by Scott Snyder, James Tynion IV, and Joshua Williamson. And the art for this miniseries, all 4 issues, will be Francis Manapul. Now we know why he was taken off of Trinity. He's been busy prepping this malarkey.
Oh, I know. Those 4 names right there. Let's pretend I have zero idea what the premise of this is. Just with those 4 names, I'm buying it. I don't care what it is. I don't care.
I can't fault the logic. So it will set the stage for a family of Justice League comics starting in June. So I think it will be new books. It won't just be Justice League, issue 40 something. I think it's going to be new books. They're all going to start in June. Now, it's worth mentioning, they do not specifically mention how many. I think, because there's been a lot of assumptions on the internet, including by myself. I will admit, I made some assumptions when I first read this, and I'll get into what I think where this is going once we've read through the rest of the main details here. So, it's worth mentioning, Snyder will be helming the flagship Justice League book, and then Tynion and Williamson, as well as others yet to be announced, will be working on other Justice League books, which is where it gets really, speculative when you're thinking about how many there might be. So here we go. So there's some stuff from Snyder. He talks about remapping the cosmos of the DC. Big words. You know what he likes to do. He likes to break things apart and put them back together, because he's a wacky man. So the plot of No Justice, right? So forgetting the books that are coming after for a minute, I'll just tell you the plot of No Justice. It sees Brainiac. Yes, Brainiac. I'm excited too, Matt. Yes, it's okay to be excited about that. Brainiac warns the Justice League about a cosmic level threat on the way to destroy Earth. So it's a comic book. Just to be cynical for a second, it's a comic book. When the heroes find out that even the combined might of the Justice League, including some unlikely new recruits, more on that in a bit, isn't enough to stop it, Brainiac advises them with a plan. His strategy involves the heroes allying with villains and splitting up into 4 specialised teams. The fate of a different alien world depends on the success of each team, but if they fail, it's game over for not just Earth, but the entire DC universe. So, the 4 teams, and for this mini, for No Justice, we have 4 teams. We have Team Wonder, which seems to be comprised. There's art to go along with this. You can check this out. You can go to the IGN article, go to the CBR article, wherever you want to go, and there's images with these teams and their coloured sort of variants of their suits, so they all match. So you have Team Wonder. Team Wonder is Wonder Woman, Dr. Fate, Raven, Zatanna, and Etrigan. So
I feel like they just made a team for Connor. Like, this is like, here you go.
For our Connor, not Ken. Okay,
yeah, not Connor Kent, our Connor.
Hey, like, you start talking about Connor. I feel usually you're talking about him.
I know. I meant our Connor.
Not that I know who that is. Just to clarify, not that I know who that is.
More on that later. You not recognizing someone on one of these teams.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Go on.
You walked right into it, Pete. But you have Dr. Fate and Zatanna on one team. Like, with the other Mystics. Like,
yeah. Oh, it's a very mystical team led by Wonder Woman. That's basically what that is. Yeah. So that's Team Wonder. Then you have Team Wisdom. By the way, Team Wonder's all in purple. Or pinky. Yeah. Lavender?
That's purple.
Purple, yeah. Then you get Team Wisdom, who are all sort of in red, which actually, 3 of them are typically in these colours anyway, admittedly. But you have Flash, you have Damian. Now it's worth mentioning they also have like darker bits in their costume, so they'll have even Flash and Damian have like a slightly different look to them. But you got Flash, you got Damian Wayne, you got Cyborg in his red suit, you got Harley Quinn, and it took me a second to realise who the other guy was at first, but that is the Atom, that is Ryan Choi. Because do you know the thing with the Atom suit is I'm so used to the red and blue that having it all be red kind of threw me for a minute.
He kind of looks like Iron Man.
It does a little bit actually, yeah.
Because I was like, wait a minute, is there? No, it's the Atom. So, that's a cool team.
It is worth mentioning as we go. I believe each team has one villain and one Teen Titan on their respective teams. At least so far. We'll see if that holds up for the next couple. But so that's Team Wisdom. So no,
next team.
Next team is Team Entropy. No prizes for guessing who the leader of this team is. This is Team Batman. It should be called Team Justice. God damn it. Damn you, Snyder.
I mean, Entropy is a weird one, so it makes me wonder if the worlds are going to fits in with, whatever the theme of each of these teams are.
Yeah. So that's Batman. You've got Lex Luthor, who's sporting an S emblem, the House of L. He's got the S on his chest. Deathstroke. Beast Boy. Do you know what? I just love that Batman and Deathstroke are going to be with Beast Boy. That is an amazing combination.
Makes 0 sense.
And then Lobo's the final member of that team. So you got 3 like dead serious characters and then 2 sort of more jokey ones. So that's interesting.
I laughed at with this Batman versus Deathstroke story. They couldn't share custody of Damian, so they stuck him with Flash. Like,
hey Barry, you want to look after Damian? You'll get along just fine.
Also, there was some more art that came out with this. That's not just the teams. And Lex has his more traditional suit. So
I wonder
if this is just Manipul doing a sketch or what.
I wonder if he like starts off with one of the suits and then either takes it away or adds the S by the end for plot reasons or because he feels he's part of the super family again. I don't know. And then the final team is Team Mystery. With Starfire, I'm getting that in first. Shut up, Matt. You got Starfire, you got Superman as the leader, you got Martian Manhunter, yes.
What?
I know. You got Sinestro, and the biggest WTF of this entire roster of all these teams is Starro is with this team.
Yeah, and they wear like a maroon, like a very deep purpley red color, which which matches Starro, funnily enough. Like
It does. I particularly like how Superman's like red part, because he's still blue for the most part, but he's got this sort of dark red as well. I love how the dark red also forms the trunks.
Yes. Oh, the trunks. Yeah, that's right.
The trunks. So you still kind of got the trunks in this art, even though we just got it. So I like that.
I hope this is the Dude Bro Starro from Metal that we saw in the last issue, because him playing off of Sinestro, man. And this is the first time I've seen Sinestro in quite some time. So that was cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Obviously, it's the first time I've seen Manhunter in ages. I mean, obviously we got him in the Justice League in a flashback like last week, but that was notable when that happened because we hadn't seen him in ages.
So we can all kind of guess who we're all kind of riding with as of now, like just based off of character selections.
Well, which team you like the most?
Yeah, I feel you're riding with Entropy. I mean,
well, I don't know, because I don't know if
Where are you with Wisdom?
I mean, if I'm picking a favorite team, it's either Wisdom or Mystery.
Oh wow!
Because it's a team. It's not just one character. I mean, I love Batman, and I do love Batman being with Gar. Don't get me wrong, I love that. But like Damian with Barry and Harley, and then Superman with Martian Manhunter and Starro and Starfire.
Yeah.
Like
this reminds me. I want to say it was the late '90s, maybe early 2000s. They broke up the Justice League in the comics, and they each gave them like it had never existed. So each of the members created their own JLA, and Superman and Starfire, Martian Manhunter formed the Justice League of Aliens. So this when I saw this image, that's all I could think of.
Oh yeah, which is worth mentioning. Those are clearly all aliens, if that wasn't obvious, in the Mystery team.
Yeah.
So obviously some of the others, and obviously all the Wonder Woman ones are kind of mystical. If anything, she's the least mystical of the team, actually.
I mean, she does come from a magic island that's hidden from time and space. You know.
Wisdom is actually all sciencey, and then you've got Harley Quinn on top of that. I mean, she's a psychiatrist, I suppose, so maybe that's where you're bringing
therapist,
that in.
Whatever. That said, also, we have Flash War coming out soon, and it almost makes me wonder if this could be Wally on that team. I'm looking at the belt. I can't zoom in on the eyes to see if they're green or blue, because I've tried numerous times as we've been talking.
Geez, slitting this up properly, aren't you, Matt?
Of course. So this is very exciting. I like when things get gimmicky, but not in a bad way. I like when things are compartmentalized. So it really drew me to Grant Morrison's Multiversity, was they were all one shots in a bigger narrative, and they each had something to them that made them different. And I feel that's the same with these teams. And each one of them I want to read. There wasn't one that I was like, oh, I might be able to skip that and just, listen to what the guys say on the show. This is like, no, I'm reading all of these books, and my wife's going to hate me for it.
Well, hold on a minute, Matt. Hold on a minute. Because you're making an assumption. Now, to be fair, I made this assumption as well. That this would be the 4 books after this event, or after this mini-series, right? I want to speculate about that, but I don't want to go straight to that. Before we get to that, I want to talk about who's missing from these teams.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you've noticed, but there's no Green Lanterns anywhere on these teams. No Jess, no Simon, none of the classics. They're all missing. And then there's some other team members obviously missing as well. The Teen Titans. I mean, there's 14 Titan members there, but that means there's like another 3 or 4 missing. So Kid Flash and Aqualad coming to mind first, and then obviously the Green Lanterns are missing from the Justice League. So yeah, Aquaman's missing, yeah, that's a good point. So I think that's interesting, and I don't think they're going to be missing for the books after. And see, here's the thing. So my first thought was, yes, it's going to be 4 books. They're all going to be monthly, so there'll be 1 a week. And someone actually pointed this out in the group this week. I thought this was a good point. If you're someone who's currently reading both Justice League and Justice League of America, you're buying the same number of books after this. If there was 4 single shipping books,
that's true.
With 1 of each team, so you wouldn't be going up in books or anything like that potentially. However, I don't necessarily think these teams are going to be the books afterwards. I think this is just for the crossover.
Well, yeah, but I'm just talking. This this is going to lay some foundation for some change going forward.
Oh, sure.
And if we,
absolutely, yeah, absolutely, there's going to be a shake-up in terms of what's happening. And then the other thing that kind of makes me suspect that it's not just as simple as that is they keep saying Scott Snyder's writing the flagship book. If this was the 4 books, I wouldn't see any of them as being the flagship book.
No, that's true.
Unless there's a 5th book, unless it's these 4 plus the main Justice League book, which is a possibility. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't guess. If I was going to guess, I would say there's going to be at least 3 books. I would say there's going to be a Justice League, maybe a Justice League Dark, because we've got a lot of mystical characters in here. I'd expect maybe, I don't know, Talking Superman on Twitter actually had a couple of good ideas. He thought there might be a cosmic Justice League team after this, which I can see happening. But I don't think it's going to be as clear as just these 4 teams are going to be the 4 books afterwards. I don't think that's the case.
Well, no, but I feel like they're going to lay some kind of foundation. That's
Oh,
what
sure,
I mean.
of course, yeah.
If I end up really loving the themes that are going on here, it's just like, well, man, that's extra books, from what I'm reading now, because I'm going to have to make room for these somewhere.
Well, I mean, they replaced Justice League, so Justice League is gone, so that's room for...
Yeah, but it's picking up Justice League of America,
Well, yeah, sure, but, I mean, if it is single shipping books, then Justice League going away takes 2 slots, so that's... You got 2 covered. If I was to... Yeah, I mean, we know that Snyder's writing the flagship book, and we know that Williamson and Tynion the Fourth are also writing. I've seen speculation that there's another double shipping book, kind of like JLA, but it'll be co-written by those 2. I would also maybe speculate that it'll be a double shipping book by Snyder, and then you'll have 2 single shipping books, one by Tynion and one by Williamson. That's possible. It could be, again, it'll all be single shipping books, and there's maybe a 4th writer that we don't know about. Because it does say and more. It does say, there'll be more writers announced going forward. So, a lot of potential.
This is one of the books Percy's going to and taking his artists.
It could be.
Yeah, so I'm bummed about Priest's run ending on Justice League because of this.
Yeah,
because it's just barely getting started, and we've really enjoyed it.
It's worth mentioning he seemed to know that this was a short run though, because I saw an interview online back when he first took the book, asking about the long, what were your plans, and he basically said something along the lines of, after my current arc's done, there's big plans for Justice League that we can't talk about. So he took that job knowing that it was, it was just for a couple of arcs.
It's not too bad then.
Yeah.
But I teased earlier who had won on Green Arrow, and I think Priest would be a cool fit.
I can see that.
He could he's shown with Deathstroke he can juggle a big supporting cast, and that's what Percy's really done a good job of, is expanding Oliver's supporting cast.
I could see that. My only doubt for something like that is that Priest was at the Marvel Summit this week, which usually means he's usually going to have a bigger role at Marvel. So, I mean, it might not. It might just be that he's on one book that they need him there for planning, and he could still be doing a couple of DC books. I mean, he's still on Deathstroke for at least a while, because he's doing this 6-issue Batman story on Deathstroke.
Oh man, there's another. Well, good. If that makes Marvel better, then that's I can sacrifice Christopher Priest. You
can sacrifice him.
I just mean to the creative side. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But how do you feel about this overall, Matt? Are you excited about the miniseries?
I dig this type of stuff. I was thinking about this. I had read a thing that Snyder had said about Metal and the Multiverse. What he did set up there was kind of a fishbowl, and he equated dumping that fishbowl into the ocean. And then it got me thinking, right? The whole point of the multiverse is we got, a set number of Earths with 52, and they felt infinite, right? But with what Metal did by opening up the dark multiverse and all of these worlds that could exist, it makes it seem like there's an infinite number of Earths while not getting rid of the set number of Earths, if that makes any sense.
Some.
Yeah. And it got all metaphysical, and it hurt my brain, and I had to stop, and, so... But I like that. As a longtime DC fan, I like that they have this legacy of different worlds. And if this is what this is going to be, if Team Mystery has to go to like a world that's heavily sci-fi, versus Team Wisdom that's going to, a lesser sci-fi, and that's why I'm not trying to say lesser, but you know what I mean, with the Flash and all those guys.
Yeah, I feel like Mister, you're looking for alien planets. I think Team Wisdom, you're looking at more like hard sci-fi where you're dealing with anomalies and time travel and shenanigans like that.
More technology than creatures. Where Mystery is more creatures than tech. And then you have Entropy, who that could be street level for all we know. And then, Wonder, which is all magic based and mystical based. So it's, whatever this ends up being. And then the fact you throw in Brainiac, who's like one of my all-time favorite villains.
Yeah, can I just say, I feel like the end of the 4-issue thing is going to be, oh, by the way, Brainiac wasn't trustworthy, you've been doing his bidding, now we have to deal with the fallout of that.
I hope not. I hope it's a different, because I liked what Johns did with Brainiac, and he kind of consolidated a lot of Superman's villains this way, that it was always just the one, but they had, automatons, different. So I think about, like, Toyman. What he did with Brainiac is all these other Brainiac Supermans met over the ages were just drones. So that's why that was all the different versions. And then we met the big, physical one that was Kaluan, and, he was a physical threat to Superman as well, which I liked. So the fact that there might be a new Brainiac that's coming to help, to warn them, like, hey, this doesn't end up well for all of us. We need to pull together. Can
I just say how confusing that was for a long time? Like, try to figure out exactly what Brainiac was, when for a long time, almost every version, it was just a robot or just an AI. And then the idea of Kalu, like, just, piecing all that together. It was bloody confusing, as sometimes comic continuity can be.
And then that's where Johns is always the GOAT at that, is consolidating all these things from that. He doesn't waste anything. Everything still matters. It's just how you structure it. So he did that with all the Flash stuff, and he's done that with the JSA, and even Hawkman. I mean, that's the biggest that he's done. And now he's doing it with Rebirth on the, the whole DC imprint level. So, this is very exciting. Again, Starfire is a character that I've taken a liking to the last couple of months, not just because of the joke where you didn't recognize her. Like, it just... I've grown quite fond of her. To see her teaming up with my favorite hero in Superman, that's awesome. That really puts her at the next level.
Yeah, I'm fairly excited. My only worry is that with Snyder going big and silly, is sometimes I feel he gets too big and silly. But with those other names involved,
it's a textbook writing like he did in Zero Year.
Yeah, sure.
I'll take where as zany as Metal gets, and this will get to that, where it's like you're just reading out of a engineering book. And just like, okay, we get it, you did your research, man.
I'm excited, perhaps more for the Tynion and Williamson books than I am his book, but I am down for all of them. And if we do end up with a Justice League book every week of some sort, whether it is a double shipping main book and other singles, or if it is 4 single shipping books or whatever, that'll be fun to have every week. On the show, I think so. I will crack a little joke here though about how Bendis comes to DC and almost immediately we're Avengering the Justice League, because this has reminded me a lot of having like Avengers, New Avengers, Mighty Avengers, Dark Avengers, and so on.
I mean, it's definitely compartmentalizing them, which I don't think can be bad unless you overdo it.
No, I think that's fine. I will say though, if it ends up being like 5 or more books, then that'll be the point where there's too many. But if we're going with this idea that there'll be 4 issues a month, regardless of how many books that is, if it's like 1 double shipper, 2 double shippers, 4 single shippers, I think that's fine. But I think once you go more than that, it starts to be a bit maybe oversaturated.
Yeah, and I agree, and that's what I was saying by not saying it about Marvel. If you overdo it, then it stops being fun. It feels like homework. Where if you keep it manageable, you can keep it fun.
Yeah. So I guess we're done talking about No Justice, unless and I know we're going to get comments saying, why didn't you talk about this and why didn't you theorize this? Like, tell us what your thoughts and theories. I'm excited to hear all opinions on this. I really am.
Let us know which team you're repping. Like, we had a big discussion on that in the Facebook group, and I like to see who everyone else is excited for.
Yeah, who's your favourite? We know Connor's is Wonder. That's obvious.
Yeah.
I think I'll put my. I know you're taking Mystery, so I'll take Wisdom just to be different.
Cool.
Cool. But hey, no, fun, exciting. So
exactly.
I guess that's the news. Finally, I guess we can start talking about books.
Let's do that because we have a whole lot of unpacking to do.
We do, and it's funny because I mean it's not a big number of issues per se. We got 8 books. It's not it's kind of normal average. But Doomsday Clock. So we're going to start off with Doomsday Clock number 3, Geoff Johns, Gary Frank, and unfortunately this is the last issue for 2 whole months until we get the next one at the end of March. Yeah. So savor it, enjoy it.
I mean, at least February is the shortest month, so
I can't dispute that logic.
No,
that said, when we get to the end of March and then we have to wait till the end of May, you can't give me that again. So
I know. God.
But so this is issue 3 of Doomsday Clock, and you know I know there's a lot of skepticism on the interwebs, and there's some folk who think the Watchmen shouldn't be touched. I don't want to go into that, but you know obviously that's a feeling from a lot of people.
After I read this, I made my opinions known on Twitter, so you can go check that out. You know, and it just comes from the perspective of a longtime DC fan of these superhero characters. You know, that's why I read these, you know, and I understand that comic books is its own, I don't want to say genre, but its own, you know, piece of literature. And there's room for everything, you know, but I read comics for superheroes, and I feel like what Johns and Frank are doing in Doomsday Clock appeals to my sensibilities there.
Yeah, I think the point I was getting at was that after reading this, I'm still loving this every month, and it still feels like an event. I get excited before I sit down to read it. I read it a complete second time before we do it, because I always skim through my books before I do the show, but I always read this a full second time before we start recording. I need to, and I think when issue 4 hits, I'll probably reread everything up until issue 4.
Yeah, I mean it won't hurt just to be fresh going in. And it's not like we won't have time. Yeah,
so I you know, the point being is I'm still loving it. So this is going to be a positive discussion about Doomsday Clock number 3.
On my second read through, so I read the back matter like 3 times just because it's in my wheelhouse. But I only read the main story twice, and I tried to find stuff that I really didn't enjoy in this issue the second time through, and I just can't. Like, not trying to be a shill, but this issue worked so well.
I think, obviously, it's mirroring some structure stuff from the original Watchmen. I think it's worth mentioning, because obviously, I've got the advantage over you a little bit here in that I just reread Watchmen before this started.
Yeah.
A few months ago. And I specifically remember talking to Connor as we were reading it, saying, when does the Black Freighter stuff start? Now, I can tell you right now, it started in issue 3. So I think it's very interesting that issue 3 of Doomsday Clock introduces its own version of that, and in this it's an old movie it's on TV. The adjournment is on TV, and that's what we're getting. We're getting glimpses of throughout the issue, and it'll come and go as we go. Because if you go back and read Watchmen, the Black Freighter stuff's not as consistent as you might remember it, because it's there for a lot of 3, it's there for a lot of other couple issues, but there's some issues where it skips completely and you get none of it. So I'm sure we'll see this come back, but maybe not necessarily the next issue, and we'll see it in and out as we go. So I think from a structure point of view, that's fascinating. Mainly though, I just love the ideas it's playing with, and I think the first thing, I think we'll just work through the book. The first scene in the book, and the first thing to really talk about is end of issue 2. We had that big cliffhanger where the comedian showed up and took some shots at Ozymandias, right, and Lex.
Yeah.
And I think we all basically agreed at the end of that discussion, yeah, it's not really him, probably. And then we just kind of, that was basically the gist of the conversation. We were positive it wasn't really him. And this issue opens with, we actually get the scene from the start of Watchmen of comedian being beaten up and thrown out the window. And what we see is, and my mind went straight to Jor-El, given what happened in Oz Effect and what we found out about him.
Yep.
As he's falling to the ground, comedian is transported somewhere. It goes black. He wakes up in the water, in the ocean. He gets up, and we just see the foot, and we get, hello, Blake. We see that Manhattan's there. Manhattan's brought him somewhere. And he's like, where the hell are we? And obviously, we're presuming this is the DCU. I don't think we see anything in the skyline that specifically tells us it is, but...
That's Metropolis.
Is that Metropolis?
I believe that's Metropolis, because that looks like LipScore Tower. It's
actually, now that I'm looking very closely, it's very small, but you can make out the Daily Planet globe.
Yeah.
It's very small, but you can make it out.
For a fact, I know it's not Gotham, because it doesn't look like a crap hole. Well,
that wasn't really. I just saw a skylight. It wasn't until I looked right there where I actually really saw the globe. But it's really you don't see the detail. You don't see the words Daily Planet on it or anything like that. It's really tiny.
No, but no, for me it was the L-shaped building. That's LexCorp Tower.
I feel like that changes every time you see it, so I never even really considered that.
But again, with Johns, he plays such homage to the past. That's something he would pick up on.
Yeah, it's also worth mentioning his button came with him. I was talking to Conrad about this yesterday, about how the button ended up in Batman's cave. And everything I said yesterday was complete gobbledygook, because now that I'm looking at it again, the button does come with him. It's on the beach, he's looking at it, so...
What's the saying from The Flash? It's the Speed Force. I don't have to explain shit.
It's the Speed Force, bro. I ain't going to explain shit. That's the saying.
There you go. And because remember, the button came out of the Speed Force.
Oh, it did. No, I just assume it goes back into the Speed Force. I don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah.
This is one of those things where Connor was obsessing over. He was also upset because he was talking to me about this last night because he knew he wasn't going to be on the show. And the other thing he mentioned was like, well, this was a big thing. He was really fixated on this, right? So because the comedian was pulled at the last minute as he was falling to the ground, like, does that mean he gets sent back so that he lands and then Watchmen takes place as it did? Or is a new version of Watchmen happening after this now because his body was taken at the last second? Do you get what he means?
Yeah, it's timey-wimey, and...
It's timey-wimey, yeah.
If Johns is going to change Watchmen, I feel that's really going to make people riot. So, I don't... But then again, stuff that happens here, right, that starts in this book, like the end of their world when they're leaving, I don't feel like that needs to happen still.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I feel like if Johns feels he can play with the events of Watchmen by taking out comedian's death, which is the inciting incident, I think that makes it worse off.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily what he's doing here. I think how this affects Watchmen is not a huge deal. I think we might affect Watchmen in other ways. I don't think pulling the comedian out is necessarily the big deal, though. I could see, it could just be a case of he beams him back so he lands, and it's like he never left.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think it's going to. And I feel like Manhattan is messing with the time stream.
Which they may never show. Yeah, they may never even show him going back. It doesn't matter. If they don't, it doesn't really matter. I'm not going to worry about it. No. It's just not a big deal.
But then again, it could create parallel timelines. We know this is the DCU. We know that Watchmen really isn't an Earth in the multiverse as we know it. It was, there was that Earth 4, I think it was. That was the Charlton's characters, that Charlton Comics characters. Morrison did his own version of Watchmen within an issue. So who knows? It could be open grabs. And then again, it doesn't. It's like when they reboot a movie, they're not taking away your old movie. So you can still enjoy it for what it is.
I don't think his point was that we're messing with the original Watchmen story. It was questioning, do we have a new alternate version of Watchmen because of that in this story?
I don't know. Again, we'll get to the time stuff more too, because I think that Manhattan isn't beholden to time and space as it is, so he can jump around as he sees fit. So what could be his future is someone else's past, if that makes sense. Yeah,
for me, honestly, what stuck out was the idea that this was very similar to Jor-El, that he grabbed him at the last second and brought him here. For whatever reason, did he bring him here specifically for fighting Ozymandias in this situation? Or was he brought here earlier for something else, and this is just he's still around for this?
Yeah, because we don't know how much time has gone in between. We don't know if he just landed in Metropolis Harbor. We don't know if he's been there for a while. We don't know if he had drinks with Bibbo at a certain point.
Yeah,
like,
is he been here for 20 years? Or has he been here for 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Like we don't actually know. We know he's got his outfit. You know, Doc Manhattan's probably just materialize his outfit for him because he can do that.
And I do remember from Watchmen, they were partners, right, in Vietnam.
Yeah,
Manhattan and Comedian. So we know they work well together. We know they don't like Ozymandias, as it were. So yeah, it all goes. It still plays with tropes that not tropes, but plots that were set in motion in Watchmen.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say work well together necessarily, but at least put up with each other.
Yeah, they play nice for you know.
Yeah. So this entire first scene of the fight, basically, Comedian's determined to throw Ozymandias out the window, and it doesn't break, so he keeps trying, and then he starts shooting the glass to eventually put him through it. It's quite delightful, because it's very, like, oh, I'm doing to you what you did to me. But of course, it's Lex Luthor's window, so it's like reinforced to shit. So it's not quite happening, so he has to really, really hammer it to make it happen. And then Ozzy basically decides to grab his cat and just make a jump for himself. And we get like a really sort of over the top sliding down the window outside and then going onto the top.
I always call that an Indiana Jones exit, like in Temple of Doom. You know, when he leaves Club Obi-Wan. Through all the things.
It's very like that.
There's one panel where he lets go of his cape, and all I could think of was Superman, and that's got to be intentional with this team. You look at the cape in the window, the way that it flutters.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I made it up like, oh, Superman's catching him. This is we get back to Superman going, you know, and no, Ozzy gets out of it himself. Like, there's been very little DC character involvement up to this point. So. Well,
there's more in this issue, of course, but yeah.
I'm talking this
Matt,
point in the story.
You make. So he survives that, and then we go back to Batman and Rorschach at the cave, and Rorschach is trying to explain what's going on, and he's just like, you know what, here, have the journal, read that, please. And then he's frustrated. Well, actually, that's a later scene where he's frustrated he's not reading it quick enough. So Batman says, go upstairs and get a shower and get cleaned up, as Batman reads the journal. So I mean, that's pretty epic in and of itself, that Batman's reading the Rorschach journal. Yeah,
and that Rorschach, we find out here, too, that he's not necessarily... He doesn't like working with Ozymandias. He still holds Ozzy responsible for the events at the end of Watchmen, and he's only doing this because he wants to help find Manhattan. Because my take on this is Rorschach has something that he feels Manhattan can fix.
Yeah, probably. It's worth mentioning as well, we go back to the miming marionette, and I like how, just to contrast it with the city shot from earlier, this shot, they're looking at Gotham, and it does look like a very different city. It's a really nice touch. But they're basically going for a drink. It's cutting around a lot. There's a lot of one-page scenes here as we're jumping around, until we get to the old folks' home. And we get to...
Oh, man. Here we go.
Yeah, this is where the real meat of this issue kind of comes in, with Johnny Thunder.
It's so heartbreaking. Just, let's take Johnny Thunder out, and he's just an old man waiting for his family that's never going to arrive. Oh, my God.
Yep, and that's where we get the TV. They're fighting over the remote. There's some small world stuff going on. They're still talking about the Superman theory, which is this whole thing where they think like superpowers are an American conspiracy because most superheroes are American.
And we get the establishment that Superman was the first, right? He came out, and then all of a sudden superheroes exploded on out, which means, as far as we know, the Justice Society never existed. Because you would think that they would remember, even if they were just like secret agents.
Well, yeah, but we knew this anyway, Matt. The JSA did not exist in this continuity. It never did. Not since the New 52 happened.
No, I know. But I'm just saying, like, they're going out of their way to remind you Superman is the first. Like, this is the timeline we're in. So, why is Johnny Thunder suddenly so important? Right? Like, there's more going on. He remembers something.
Oh yeah,
And
but
then,
I don't feel that that's changed anything since Rebirth issue 1. Like that's exactly what we said back then as well.
right? No, I know. It's reestablishing it.
He's having memories of some kind. He's having glimpses of what his life was, and he's getting confused, and he's thinking about it. It's like fragments of it are coming in, but no one believes him because he's a crazy old man.
Exactly.
Same with Satin Girl at Arkham. Like, no one's believing her because she's coming off as crazy.
More on that later, but. Temporal anomaly and Arkham. I might have jumped out of my chair at work and was asked if I was okay. But back to Johnny Thunder. He's wearing his
back to
his
Johnny
suit.
Thunder. Yeah, he's got his green coat on.
With his bow tie, and there's a striking resemblance to when I went to look him up to see what he used to look like. Striking resemblance to Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, it's also worth mentioning on the TV news. Like some people are defending Superman, but they're also talking about U.S. government experimentation. And they mention Rex Mason, Kirk Langstrom, and a third individual who
Lady Clayface.
Is that Lady
on
Clayface?
The Outsiders in the 80s.
Yeah, you're right. I can see her. I mean, it says it's her. It says it's her as well. Admittedly, I just haven't got to that speech bubble.
Yeah. What gets me is you have the guys talking about, back in my day. They were real heroes. Teddy Roosevelt, which I was like, how old are you, dude? Because Teddy Roosevelt died in 1919. Joe DiMaggio and Frank Rock, who's the same Frank Rock that Sergeant Rock from World War II. So again, there's some little bit of seeding going on, like the All-Star, I don't know if they were the All-Star Squadron, no, Easy Company, from DC Mythos. So
this is where the movie starts playing, though, the adjournment, which is the last film from this actor Carver Coleman, who died after this movie was made, and this was like a series of movies. He played Nathaniel Dusk in all these films. More on that name when we get to the back matter. Save your trivia, Matt, for then.
I got you.
Because we did a bit of digging and we have knowledge.
Me and Pete have become the Always Sunny meme of the leaderboard going through this. Like, it's... Again, there's a reason why John's my favorite writer, and he opened my fandom up to all these smaller characters. We all know that I love the Booster Golds and the, elongated mans and all of this stuff. And this only plays into that even more. So, yeah. But... that scene at the old folks' home, him saying that his granddaughter and her son are coming, they would have called if they weren't. And you have the two old guys fighting over the remote, and it keeps changing back between the news and the adjournment. And we get some scenes from the adjournment.
Yeah. And I think it's worth mentioning that whole thing where he thinks his granddaughter's coming. I do wonder if that's like a glimpse of the future. Like, if that's predicting something we're going to actually see that kind of lines up with what he's saying. Maybe it won't be. Maybe it's just like figments of a memory of a different timeline. But
yeah,
I
just remember the genie is magic. There's we don't have a fine take on magic at this point because it's Watchmen. Everything is sciencey. It's Dr. Manhattan. So,
Yeah, so the movie's playing, and like I say, I compare this heavily to the Black Freighter story from within Watchmen, which was the comic book the kid was reading, but instead here we're getting an old movie. And we're getting lots of stuff to go with it because we have this mystery of the death of the actor as well, on top of the plot of the movie. Now, the way the Black Freighter worked in Watchmen is that it kind of mirrored the motivation and the story of Ozymandias. As that was going on. So I think one of the fun things here is that we're going to be kind of trying to guess who this is talking about, what it means in terms of thematically to the overall story. Because the plot of this is that Nathaniel Dusk is this private eye who was a detective, was an actual cop, but he gave it up. His wife was killed by her ex-lover who was a mobster. And his kids are now away with some grandparents.
Her grandparents.
Yeah. And
her parents.
And he gets this case on Christmas Eve, and that's actually all we get in the first scene is all that stuff there. Someone coming into his office, and then we cut back to Rorschach having his shower. Trying to wash the filth of Ozymandias out of his hair. I believe was the
look. I've been dirty after going to the beach with sand in my hair, but I've never scrubbed so hard that my scalp starts bleeding. So this dude is working through something.
Yeah, the art is glorious. I mean, obviously Gary Frank's been great since we started the book. But
it was that scene. I love the line that bathroom it costs more than a city block where he's from.
Yeah,
that cracked me up. And then him him being shown the room, and they've gone through every room in the mansion for the smallest room because this is all too big.
It feels
for Rorschach.
uncomfortable, yeah.
Yeah.
But seriously, just that panel with the blood evenly in both sides of his face, because it looks like a Rorschach,
Yep.
big blot.
Well,
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, it's his mask.
Yeah,
that's
made out of blood.
Which makes me think, not that he has two dual personalities, but he has two, like there's him with the mask and him without the mask. Whereas the original Korvax, whatever it is he was one person always. Even when he had the End is Nigh sign and whatnot, that was him.
I mean, you could read it both ways. You could read it, no, he's always Rorschach, because even without the mask, his mask is forming on his face. But just the driblets of water plus the thick blood, you can see from that panel. I mean, everyone knows that blood is thicker than water. That's a common saying for a reason. But you can actually see it in that panel. The blood looks thick and oozy, and then the water's like just these like thin driplets. It looks really good. And we go back to the movie that's playing, the adjournment, and we see the case as these two guys have ended up dead. One's the cop who's come, because it's a cop, an honest cop, one of the few honest cops left, which obviously
he remembers,
which makes us think of Jim Gordon, of course. Think about it, think of Year One Batman. That kind of sounds like that. But he comes to Nathaniel Dusk, sorry, for this case. And it becomes this bit of a debate about how, actually, this scene is just not actually that. I'm thinking of the later scene. But in this scene, it's basically just, here's the case, here's the two dead bodies, the two guys that were playing chess. It's Christmas Eve. One of them is my brother-in-law. The other was a neighbor who's a widower that he thinks was maybe the target, because there's no way my brother-in-law, he was a jerk, but nobody would have it out for him. Yeah. Yeah, so we have that. There's a very quick thing from the news before we actually end that page about a German superhero. One of the few German superheroes, the Wild Huntsman. Yeah, is possibly reported in a terrorist attack of some kind. Someone was blowing up a facility where they were doing German, testing, and they're trying, and so he was seen fleeing the scene. So it's creating the sense of paranoia and distrust amongst the supers now with the Rex Mason stuff, which I still feel that's going to play in much more coming up, because this is, again, we're just getting more references now from issue 1 to Absolutely, this. Yeah. And then we go back to the Meme Marionette. They go to a bar, the Jumping Jacks specifically. They come in, and immediately people are like, hey, what are you doing wearing that makeup? This is Joker territory. No one else wears that makeup. And of course we have a really simple panel of Marionette just turning and saying that the Joker, who's the Joker? And everyone's like, what'd she say? Who doesn't know who the Joker is? Now, before we get to the action of this scene, I just want to mention, right, so obviously we're going to talk about the action that takes place with the two characters and the barman and all the people in the bar. But before we go any further, so the scene ends with them saying, let's go find this Joker, right? Now, obviously, we're excited about them meeting the Joker because they're these evil villains. The Joker, of course, is the most villainous of villains, the villains in the DC universe, right? We know there's 3 Jokers. I knew you were going down this way. Right. My brain went this way reading it the second time. Yeah. I don't like it. We know they have a missing kid that Ozymandias was promising that they'd meet. Is it out the realm of possibility that this missing kid ends up being one of the Jokers, possibly the current Joker that they're going to meet? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Or is that too obvious? It may be too obvious. I think it is. It could just be a red herring. I'm throwing it out. I think it's worth mentioning and throwing out that that's a thing that could be a possibility. I find it odd that we didn't discuss this at all before, and we came to the same conclusion while reading it. So that's again, that's on purpose. Yeah, I'm not necessarily convinced that's the case. I just think it's worth the speculation. So the whiskey that they're drinking, or gin, whatever it is called Lindbergh, and that Lindbergh was famous not for just crossing the Atlantic, but the famous kidnapping of his son. So that again plays into the layers here. Matt with the trivia. So this scene, everyone in the bar tries to fight them, and one of them grabs Marionette and kind of makes a suggestive motion with his tongue, and the mime pulls out his invisible weapon. Now, of course, we've had great speculation as to this in the past. Back from issue 1, we were joking, oh, so he has mime weapons as well, but is there actual weapons or just invisible? And it pays off here beautifully. The moment where he's holding out his hand, they all think he's an idiot, and then you see it fire, and you just see the blood coming out the back of the guy's head. It is a wonderfully brutal little moment. And then the entire scene, and then you even get that shot of the panel of the gun, where it's still invisible, but you just see a bit of an outline.
Smoking.
You see the smoke, you see a little bit of an outline, the lights glistening off of it, which does kind of imply that he has invisible weapons. That's what this is. It's not just that he's...
lockpicks. Then he starts throwing invisible knives, too.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see the outlines. So here's the thing. Post Dr. Manhattan, were there more superheroes in Watchmen?
Or is it just tech? Did he just have tech that made just turn guns invisible? Like, it could be... I mean, I don't want to say that's simple, but it's simpler than, metahumans doing it.
But then you look at later Rorschach's compression gun, right? He mentions how sleek Batman's is, and where did he get something like that?
Oh, sure, but you could read that as he's this low-life criminal vigilante who makes his own stuff, and Batman's a billionaire, so, I mean... That's
true. But I was just... And with the way that Marionette's powers work, is there an invisible string there? Is this a form of telekinesis? Like...
Oh, I didn't think it was telekinesis. I mean, I wasn't even sure if it was invisible. I thought it was just there.
Yeah.
Because you can see it.
Well, but it starts cutting, like... It's beyond fishing line. You know what I mean? Like, it's
I took it as a super sharp line that she had. I didn't think it was invisible, though, because you could see it every time it was, like, in panel. I took it as, like, just really strong wire, basically.
To borrow a wrestling term, when he fired that invisible gun, I popped. I was just like, oh boy, this is...
Yeah.
And he's becoming my favorite character in this.
She starts cutting off limbs, she's cutting off hands, and by the way, that panel, the bottom middle panel of the page where she's got the string out, and she's just smiling right at the, for lack of a better word, the camera, and she's looking right at you. It is creepy as shit.
It is.
Them meeting up with the Joker might actually be a fantastic little story to go through.
Now we gotta wait. The cover of 4 was the Joker cover with the Easter eggs.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Pissing me right the hell off. But yeah, that scene again. He throws the invisible knives, and in the last issue they talked about the lockpicks, and they even walked through the again. From The Killing Joke, another Alan Moore piece, that theme park that he had Gordon.
That's right, and that is not the only thing in this issue that reminds me of The Killing Joke either. More on that later.
Yeah.
But so then the next scene is we're back to the movie / the news, sort of intercutting, and we're talking about various deportations happening and stuff around the world, metagene detectors, metahuman arms race that's currently ongoing.
Yeah.
Interesting ideas, and it's cool because in Watchmen, Manhattan was kind of an allegory for the nuclear bomb. I like the idea that now we have a literal arms race with meta people.
Well, and all those countries that I mentioned are nuclear powered, Russia, Pakistan, India, so again, not by accident, Johns is really layering.
Absolutely, yeah. And then the child gets turned back, and we get the conversation. This is where the conversation in the movie is particularly interesting for me, because they talk about how the cop is sure that this one guy is the victim and the other one's the bystander, and Dusk is like, no, we can't be sure. We can't assume which one's the victim. Like, he could have been watching one of them and then followed them to the other room, and one of them is definitely the victim, one's the target, and one is the bystander, but they just get killed because of that, and we have to figure out which one. And I like that when it says to find the killer we need to find out which one was the target and which one was the innocent bystander, and that innocent bystander is bold. That panel where it says that is on Thunder crying in the window, and all I can think with that is that, if Manhattan's altered the universe, the idea that everyone who was forgotten, everyone who's been replaced, that wasn't the intention of what he did necessarily. No. It was the innocent bystanders who just kind of got swept away because of what happened.
And it makes me wonder what his grand plan was. If it was like, here's a world without superheroes. Is it better? And by doing that, that's what creates Superman and all of that stuff. And it seems better at first, but it's still gonna fall apart. It's entropy.
I think that's the core thing there, though, from this conversation, is the idea of there being two victims and one of them's just a bystander. I feel like that thematically is going to come into play in a big way.
But if there's two victims, what's the primary victim then?
Well,
who was the target?
That's the mystery. We don't know.
Yeah,
that's the mystery. Yeah. And that's assuming it is even like what I'm saying it is, where all the characters who get erased are the bystanders. Like that might not. I'm taking that because that's on that panel. I'm reading into it because of that. But even if it's not that, I think thematically that's going to be a big deal. This idea that there's two victims, but only one of them's intentional. The other one's just kind of a byproduct of it. Right. So I think that's some interesting stuff to sort of dive into. And then, also, again, the idea that it goes to Thunder when they're having a conversation, because he's talking about how he's going to find heartache because he's going back into his house to get... Basically, this murder of his wife must have happened recently because it's Christmas Eve, as we mentioned, and he's getting into the house because his wife had a Christmas present for him under the tree, and that's what he's going to get. But one of the things I like, all the left-hand panels on that page, it's Thunder, and when he talks about heartache, Thunder's the one in the panel. When he mentions a noose around his neck, it's Thunder that's on the panel. And even breaking and entering, Thunder's on the panel, which is like, the idea that Thunder wants to break free and all that stuff. I think there's some stuff in there. And then the bottom panel of that as well, when Thunder's left the frame, but it's still his like scene, and it's just the window and the building outside, and it's empty. That's where the dialogue from the movie says, it's so empty without her and the kids. And keep in mind, earlier in the issue, Thunder was saying that he was expecting his granddaughter and stuff to come. Right. So it's the idea of the loneliness, the emptiness. And on top of that, just to add extra special to it, the window frame makes a 9-panel grid within the panel.
Yeah. Well, the thing that also got me was it's not breaking and entering when you have the key. So, and it's also emphasizing Thunder. That he might be the key going forward to this.
Oh, it's interesting you read it that way. I read that it's not breaking out when you have the key. Is that like an analogy for Manhattan? He's not breaking into the universe, but he can get in without any fight. Like when he can just appear,
Why not both?
Well, yeah, why not? Little column A, little column B. Why not?
Yeah. So, oh man.
Yep. So it's that, and again, it's just the idea that this present from his wife is the last thing she ever gave him. It's the last little part of that life that's been... So his wife's been taken away, much like the DC Universe has, but there's still something remaining. There's something in the box, and we don't know what's in the box. Again...
What's in the box?
What's in the box? So I feel like there's a lot of stuff going on here. There's a lot of things that you can take and say, okay, this represents that, and that represents this. And the funny thing is I have no illusions that by the time we get to the end of this story and we get to see what the whole movie is and what the whole Doomsday Clock story is, that it'll all link up with it in a way that we can't even predict right now. But I think even just this on its own, these individual scenes have got things that we can...
Yeah, it's just the fact that this was the last movie by this actor. And there was supposed to be more. Like, you get that a little bit.
Everything you're talking about is all the plot within the movie. On top of that, you have the actor was killed after this movie, and there's more going on there.
Exactly.
The next scene, it's actually New Rorschach is having a nightmare of when the big squid thing, the alien landed in New York, and he wakes up from that nightmare, and Bruce is like, hey, I think I know where your Manhattan guy is. As you said earlier, an anomaly at Arkham Asylum.
A temporal anomaly.
Now, it does turn out, though, that this was just a lie to get him there. This didn't really happen.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a trap.
It's a trap, as they say. I do love them both pulling out their grappling guns and Rorschach being, like, basically emasculated by his shitty little thing. The pages that I was mentioning reminded me of the Killing Joke. All the side views as they're walking past the doors in Arkham is it's like the start of the Killing Joke. I thought that was a really nice touch. But this is all a ruse. Batman basically gets Rorschach locked in a cell. He gets him in the cell and slams the door, and the book ends with Rorschach threatening him and say, "I'll kill you for this." He's screaming, and Batman's like, "I'm sorry, but you belong in here." I love this because you know what? Batman would lock Rorschach in Arkham Asylum.
Especially if he gave him this journal, right?
Yeah.
And he just said it's Kovac's diary. Batman doesn't know who Kovacs is.
This just makes so much sense to me. Like, Rorschach, you know, brutally murders people, and I know a lot of people compare him to he's the Batman of the Watchmen. Sure, yeah, but like, actual Batman does not like this Rorschach. He never would.
No. No.
This makes complete sense.
So you kind of gleaned over him having the nightmare and stuff. And
oh sure, yeah, you can go back.
That revealed he was at Ground Zero of the Squid. Like when the Squid appeared in Times Square.
Yeah.
He was right there. So whatever had happened, did Manhattan do something that pulled him from there? Is that why he's so?
Maybe.
I mean, clearly he's not in his head, you know?
That said, I do have to wonder if he wasn't actually there and this is just his nightmare of being there. Maybe.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's a possibility. Because if he was right there, he should be dead.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So, like, is there some things afoot? Does he have, like, survivor's guilt? Like, maybe that was his dad that was there. You know, I don't know. Because it shows him driving a taxi. But this guy looks super young.
Yeah. If he was there, I will say that this answers, you know, why he's so messed up. Because he went through this.
Yeah, exactly.
So that makes a lot of sense.
And we know he wants, basically, revenge on... He's only helping Ozymandias to further his own goal, which is, you know, to kind of get revenge on, well, as I took it, Ozymandias. But yeah, Batman locks him in there. But those guards too at Arkham are talking about the adjournment, and there's a key plot point of the movie that gets spoiled. I mean, intentionally, that one of the guards is like, "Oh yeah, I'm watching this on TV, and it's the one that's real famous," and it turns out that one of the killers was also a killer. Or one of the victims was also a killer. Yeah. And the guy's like, hey, don't tell me, I want to watch it. And that was so like a perfect tease.
We don't get any more of it, but it's like, oh, what does that mean? Was he killed because he was a killer? Or was what? Yeah. Like, why was it the innocent bystander who was the killer?
Yeah.
Like, you know, which one was the killer? That is a good tease, actually. I agree with that. But now not only am I deeply curious about where things are going, I'm excited about Marionette and Mime meeting the Joker. I'm now excited for more of the plot of the movie, which I'm going to have to give this credit here. Now, this might be blasphemy to some, but I love Watchmen. I love it dearly. But Black Freighter, I don't love that much within the book. It's a bit of a slog, those sections. Whereas with this, I'm not going to say that this is a book is better than Watchmen, but I will say that I feel like this Nathaniel Dusk movie is inherently more interesting and easier to read than that Black Freighter stuff ever was.
And I think it speaks to John's too coming from. I mean, he was Richard Donner's assistant, so he knows movies. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I would watch the hell out of The Adjournment. I love 40s, 50s noir. You know, that whole aesthetic. And I'm kind of sad I can't watch this movie. You know, like it's not a real movie, but it feels so real.
Yeah,
you know?
Made by Werner Brothers. I don't know if you noticed.
Werner Brothers.
Yeah.
No, which again goes back into DC. You know, that was the company that Blue Demon, whatever that character was. He was a stuntman with the costume. Worked at Werner Brothers.
Which, while we're on that subject now, so we're getting, you know, so we'll finish the book. So obviously, I love how Batman's cape looks at the end as he's walking away. It's a really nice shot. It's also worth mentioning he has a different bat suit than the current Rebirth suit, and Frank did confirm on the Twitters that the rest of the books will eventually also have this suit. You know, because we've been saying that Doomsday Clock is set a year later in the DCU, and then by the time it finishes, everything else will catch up. Which we never actually spoke about that when Doomsday Clock, we mentioned it's now going to end much later. I'm not worried about that because it's so far in advance that none of the teams for those books were writing their books for January anyway. So it just means they're all going to have another arc or two before Doomsday Clock finishes.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, this
it's not a big deal.
Happens. It's also a really close. You just read this, but the Earth One Batman. It looks a lot like Frank and John's.
It's very similar. It's not the exact same, but it is very similar. It's got the yellow oval back with the bat logo in it. It is very similar to that outfit, which I don't mind. I do prefer the non-yellow oval look, but I don't have a problem with it either, so that's fine. And I'm not going to lie, I know some people are really upset that they're losing the purple cape. I'm not.
I like that it's become a late run Snyder, early run Rebirth era. I like when they have different eras.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know, so that's fine. I don't. Again, I'm not broken up over it, but again, it's Batman. I don't get broken over a lot for Batman.
Also, the ears looking a little bit bigger, so I'm actually kind of cool with that too.
Makes for a better silhouette.
That's good. But yeah, they did confirm that the rest of the Bat books and other DC books, by the time we get to the end of Doomsday Clock, will also have this Bat suit. So you can look forward to that. But I didn't notice it. Now, it is worth mentioning that we have some back matter once again, and I think it's worth talking about. Before we talk about the back matter itself, we out of curiosity we looked up Nathaniel Dusk just to check. What was this a thing before? Was this a made up name? Did Johns pull this from somewhere? And it turns out it is actually a character from DC Comics history.
Yeah,
from DC Comics past.
Nathaniel Dusk sounds a lot like Sam Spade. Like, it's just one of these names that sounds cool to say. Sounds like a private eye. So that's why I thought, Johns is doing his own retroactive continuity, a retcon, if you will, because that's what he's known for. But no, like Pete just said, he comes from a DC miniseries in the mid '80s that were Nathaniel Dusk.
Yeah, two miniseries. He had two. He had both 4-issue miniseries, and he's a detective who began his career in 1934. He served in the United States Armed Forces, and I'm reading this by the way from DC Wiki. That's where I'm getting this from for anyone who's wanting this. After leaving the military, he worked as a policeman until he quit after becoming disgusted by the rampant corruption in the force. Dusk struck up a romance with the mother of two, Joyce Galeno. Now, that ties in because at one point in this book, when he's talking about how he's lost the kids, he does say they were never really his. That's actually something he says to make himself feel better. And I think at the time you read that as whatever, but no, for this version of the character that presumably inspired this, he did have that history. His wife was Joyce, which it is in this movie in Doomsday Clock. On top of that, the wife Joyce had gone into hiding from her mobster husband, Joseph Costalino. So I'll be curious to see if that name pops up, if that's the gangster who shot her down. The vengeful husband ordered a hit on both his wife and Dusk, but only Joyce died in the attack. Dusk went after Costalino, and in the end, the gangster perished. Dusk subsequently took many other cases, but always made time to watch over Joyce's children, Jenny and Anthony. So far,
those names in
So far, that is lining up with what's in this movie, in Doomsday Clock.
Yep.
That is fascinating. I'm glad we looked this up before we came out to do this. This was a nice little find. So, very interesting. And then the back matter is like a sort of cheesy old Hollywood magazine with an article about his death. Yeah. Now, it's funny, actually. I actually kind of glossed past the front cover of this back matter. I just kind of went straight to the story. So now I'm just looking at it for the other stories to see if there's any fun things here.
Well, the name Norma Desmond comes up on that cover, right? And the smear campaign.
Yeah.
Norma Desmond is one of the main characters of Sunset Boulevard. That was the actress's name. That's who, I can't remember who the real actress that played her, but that's who she's playing in the movie.
It's worth mentioning. Sunset Boulevard, the story in that is about an old-time actress who wants to get back into the business, and it's basically she's old and she wants to regain what her life once was. And I think thematically that lines up with what Rebirth and the DC Universe is kind of doing right now with this story. So I think there's some parallels there. I'm just wondering, is the boxer one Jackie Johnson? Is that anything?
No, but he was in Easy Company with Sergeant Rock, and he was trained by Ted Grant. Who is also known by the name Wildcat, a member of
the JSA. Yeah. More GSA name drops. That's interesting.
And again, this is an old magazine from the current era. This is a movie that exists in the DCU, right? So we know these characters: Ted Grant, Sergeant Rock,
which makes me
real people.
Yeah, which makes me. I mean, forgetting Sergeant Rock because he's not GSA necessarily. No, at least not to my knowledge.
Same era.
But these other characters, it makes me wonder if because history got rewritten, this is what these other characters ended up doing with their lives. Ted Grant was doing this because JSA didn't exist and he became Wildcat, and so on and so forth. So that's interesting. It's interesting.
So, amongst these other things, you find out about Carver Coleman's history, and that he came, he was the son of Irish immigrants and grew up on a farm in Indiana. And he came out to Hollywood to hit it big.
Yep. However, we find out a lot of his history might be fabricated, because when they look into it after his death, they can't find this farm that he supposedly grew up or who his parents were. And then there's like possible connections to a crime family.
Yeah, to the Sabella crime family in Philadelphia.
Very interesting.
And he was found, so he gets murdered. He's bludgeoned to death with his Oscar that he won for playing Nathaniel Dusk in a movie called Lover's Diet Dusk, which, funnily enough, is the name of the first Nathaniel Dusk story from 1984.
Yeah, it lists his filmography, or at least all the Nathaniel Dusk movies. You've got Nothing Left to Lose, A Killer Calls, Murder at Home, A Killer's Kiss, Lover's Diet Dusk, and then, of course, the final one was The Adjournment. And these span from 1943 to the final one in 1954, which is The Adjournment, which they're watching in the book. So this was really interesting back matter stuff. I actually really liked this stuff this time.
Yeah. And then, so we get to the Coast to Coast secrets after the Coleman stuff, which I also want to point out that Coleman's bludgeoned to death just like Night Owl 1 in Watchmen. He was beat with his police trophy. Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see the comparison.
So right. Right. So we end up getting to the Coast to Coast secrets, and they talk about this actor named Frank Farr who cheated on his wife Barbara Stanwyck, who's a real life, our world actress.
Yeah. I recognize that name. Yeah.
Right. And you find out that he had an affair with this up and coming actress named Rachel Drake, and there was a baby girl that was born, and her name is Rita Farr.
Yeah.
What are you going to say, Pete?
No, nothing. You continue.
Rita Farr, who becomes Elastigirl, a member of the Doom Patrol, and adoptive mother to Beast Boy.
There's some deep connections for you people.
Bro, I go deep in this stuff. I go, Rita Farr. I pop up on my phone. Yep, Rita Farr is Elastigirl.
Yeah, I can't say that I recognised that name and went that, but I read that and went, I bet this daughter is someone. Now, admittedly, I don't think Elastigirl is one that I'd ever, because I'm not a big Doom Patrol guy. I'm not super familiar with it.
I just know that from there was a Beast Boy mini where he goes back out to L.A. and he talks about Rita, and I was like, I know that name, so I did some things. And then there's Randy Booth, who's known as the Tin Soldier, and he gets thrown out of Jackie Johnson, the boxer's wedding. And you come to find out this is like his fourth wedding, and they got into a fight over what Randy Booth says is a conspiracy surrounding Sergeant Rock's death. Now, here's the thing about Sergeant Rock is in DC continuity, he dies on the final days of the war, right? So he's kind of the spirit of World War II. He's not meant to go past. So was this a hit job done in? Was this, Booth seems to know more than what he wants to say, and that's where Ted Grant's name gets on, that he restrains Booth so the ceremony can keep going. And yeah, he's undergoing treatment right now at a combat stress, so they're chalking it up to PTSD. Yeah, right.
And then the final little story in the secret section is about how John Law, a screenwriter, was questioned for Coleman's murder, but he's got an airtight alibi because he was on he was in the police tank for being a reckless drunk on the night of the murder.
John Law was a mystery man known as Tarantula, who was kind of just guns and.
I don't even feel bad. I don't know who John Law is. That is such a deep pull, Matt.
Read the hit James Robinson mini, The Golden Age, for more on John Law, where he's the struggling writer. But he's also known for being a boyfriend to what's her name, Libby Lawrence, who ends up marrying Johnny Quick, and they're Johnny Quick and Liberty Bell, who end up having a daughter who is a member of Johns' Justice Society, and marries Rex Tyler, who's Owlman. Yeah, so these just go deep. So if John Law...
That is a deep pull. I'll give you that. That is deep as shit. But again,
I have to... This is what I do. This is why I can't remember to do dishes sometimes, because it's just filled with...
I think the key point here, though, is that John's is pulling from some obscure places in the DC universe. These are deep pulls.
these are all characters. Now I don't know if Elastigirl was, but Tin Soldier, Jackie Johnson, Sergeant Rock, John Law, Libby Lawrence. These are all characters that were around in the 30s, 40s. These were the DC, Justice Society of the wartime era.
Yeah, which goes back to the idea that these were all kind of like altered and erased, or they did something else because the JSA history isn't there. Yeah.
So they were still there. They just maybe weren't the JSA, and now that plays into Johnny Thunder. And what does that mean for him? Because his powers were magic based. They weren't, like Johnny Quick, who you remember this equation, you get to run fast, or Libby Lawrence with her, her reciting certain words, he gives her super strength. It was a little bit different. So I wonder how that plays in. And if it is magic, what does this mean for Dr. Fate of that era and I almost called him Sentinel, but Green Lantern, Alan Scott of that era, and the Starheart. So, oh man, it's my DC. This is the first issue where I feel my DC tinglers going.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the fact that it cut to Thunder in the old folks home was the book was saying, "Hey, we're starting to think about this. Start to poke around." Because
up till now, it just really felt like a Watchmen sequel. And now that you start, you had Superman show up at the end of the first issue.
Yeah, you had Batman.
He really doesn't have much to do with the plot.
You had Batman and Lex in the last issue. It was in Gotham, so it started to feel a bit more, directly related. But now it's really playing with all these ideas of things that have changed because of what's happened.
Now, if in the next issue we get that Joker stuff, and then while Batman's in Arkham, there is a temporal anomaly, and he goes and talks to Saturn Girl, I'm gonna lose it, Pete. I'll be doing backflips down the stairs.
I could see them saving the Saturn Girl stuff for a little bit later. I could see that waiting.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, that they're setting all the stuff up now that I've waited. We're coming up on 2 years, of Rebirth. So it makes you want to reread Rebirth. So I'm gonna have to dig that out.
Issue 5 will hit the same, roughly exactly. I would say roughly exactly. That's a weird thing to say, but you know what I mean. That's hitting more or less the same week that Rebirth issue 1 hit 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So that's the thing that's happening. So I think we can finally say we're wrapping up the Doomsday Clock talk.
Yeah. We're going to have to fly through some of these other books.
Unfortunately, a couple of them are quite meaty, but yeah, we'll fly through some of the smaller ones.
Yeah.
But that wraps up Doomsday Clock for this month. And this is the funny, with it being every second month now, I feel like we're going to hold back even less next issue, because it'll have been 2 months. We're digging deep into issue 4. This is happening.
As we should.
But hey, so that's Doomsday Clock. We're actually hitting around the 90-minute mark, and we've only talked about one book, because that's the type of week it is. But yeah, let's move on. Okay, so we'll go on to the regular books of the week. Starting with Detective Clock. We had a bit of a break between those two parts, in case that wasn't obvious. Yeah, my demeanor's completely changed, probably. Not in a bad way, just, I'm sitting differently. I've had something to drink, you know. But anyway, so Detective Comics 973, James Tynion the 4th, Jesus Merino on the art. Next part of this follow the Batman arc. We ended last issue with a kaiju-sized Clayface storming through Gotham. And that's a lot of what this issue is. There's a lot of fun stuff with Batman, the Batmobile, kind of dodging and swerving, trying to lead him down certain streets. There's all these shenanigans. I like this issue a lot, Matt. I don't know. But you.
It's basically Tynion's done such a good job at setting up some story threads that when they pay off, it just feels right. You don't feel like, oh, that's obvious. It feels like, well, that's where the story needed to go. And this Clayface, it starts with Tim explaining the mudroom to Batman, and
we got a flashback. It's just when he's first building the belfry.
The belfry, and I love the thing where he goes, well, we can't call it the cave because it's 40 stories up. Oh, I see. That's why he kept the bell. And, Batman seems minorly annoyed and that. But you find out that the mudroom was, they were all traces of Clayface that they picked up over time. And it comes back to haunt them by, if Tim hadn't made the mudroom, there wouldn't be, 50-foot Clayface causing a muck.
And when Clayface does break out at the start of the issue, Tim ends up falling through the sky. It's actually Batwoman who saves him, which is a nice little touch given their kind of, weird, bond recently, because, future Tim wanted to kill her, and, he's expecting her to do something bad. So there's like a weird like tension there, which is going on. Honestly, my one complaint about the book, before we get to all the other good stuff that I think it's worth delving into, it's just anarchy is kind of like the weak element of this.
Yeah, I would say the first victim on top of it too. I just feel there's again, to borrow from wrestling, there's a face turn coming for Anarchy, and it's not.
That's already came. He did it in this issue.
No, I know, but he's not. I still don't feel he's fully on that side. I feel like he's just not on first victim side anymore.
He like. I still like First Victim. I think First Victim's great on his own, or with the Victim Syndicate. His stuff with Anarchy, though, he's flip-flopped a little bit too much. And so at this point where he decides to like turn on First Victim because he's not okay with all the civilians dying, it's like, okay, it makes sense, but it's just not that satisfying. So that's definitely the weak part of the issue for me. It's a smaller part of the issue, but it's definitely the one that I'd call out for
and it just
weak.
seems like the First Victim doesn't really care about anything but causing pain to Batman. Like, this isn't this righteous cause anymore of him like trying to right the wrongs Batman has done. It really is like with them weaponizing Clayface, they're no better than any other Bat villain at this point.
Yeah,
and I like that, you know.
So all that stuff's great. Steph like being like, hey, I'm where I need to be. That was nice because obviously she's been kind of like, oh, I'm a part of the team, am I not part of the team? Obviously the heart of the issue once again is Cass with Clayface. She gets the stuff from October, jumps up, injects him, which puts him in human form for a little bit, and he's like, hey, she's like, hey, Clayface, you can fight this, Basil. And he's like, I can't, and he starts turning. And of course we've set up that Batwoman has a gun. And Batman's told her, no go, you're not allowed to use colony weaponry in my city, goddammit. And we get this giant cliffhanger where he's just about to turn back into Kaiju, and we get a full page spread of Batwoman taking the shot and the bullet going through his head. It is gobsmacking, that final page. And, you know, they could swerve us. They could swerve us and say that it's not her, because you don't see her actually taking the shot in the panel. It's just, obviously it's heavily implied that it's her. You
don't think that it's Tim, though, do you?
Oh god,
that shot.
Yeah, that would be that. I don't think it is. I think it is just Batwoman. But I mean, I'm saying there's enough room there for them to swerve us and say, oh, it wasn't her that actually pulled the trigger. It could be Tim though, because Tim was getting up. He was insisting on getting up and trying to do something.
Yeah, because in this whole thing of Batwoman's the one to do it, and if she lets him take that shot, then that's his first path to becoming that dark version of Tim that we got. Yeah, he
steps in, and that's what starts the dark path, because he stops her from doing it, thinking that's what's going to cause the split. Oh. But him doing it's going to cause the split as well. So maybe it's not worth the effort. But now some cool stuff in here. I mean, Clayface has his wrecking ball hand at one point, which is good fun.
Yeah.
The stuff where like the Batmobile's coming towards him and he's like created like a tunnel into his mouth is really cool stuff. He's got like rows of teeth, not just the one row. He's got multiple rows.
He's kind of like a shark.
Yeah. And it looks really good. That's it. I mean, just for the record, like Batwoman is aiming the gun in the previous page. She's looking through the scope, so there's not a lot of wiggle room. But I do think it's possible they could say, "Oh, Tim jumped in at the last second and grabbed the gun and took the shot."
Yeah, or it could just be her because of her military training. She's doing what she needs to prevent more casualties.
Oh, of course. Like, I mean, that's the obvious option. That is her. I'm just saying, like, if they're going to swerve, that'll be their wiggle room to do it. But yeah, they end in this page of him getting a headshot with this gun that supposedly has the right stuff in it to put him down. So I mean, of course, the other swerve could be that Tim quickly modified it so it wouldn't be lethal.
Yeah, that could be it too.
That could always be it. 'Cause I don't think we're killing Clayface. I feel like that's unlikely. But
well, I feel like they already have by explaining like he'll never be able to be Basil again. Really, you know, like. With the whole, they had to get the cure to him at a certain point, right? With that bracelet. And that's what October was saying. So I feel like him being able to even pretend to have a normal life, that time's passed, and now he'll be Clayface. But yeah, I don't think this is the death of Clayface.
Yeah, but brace your heart. Cassie's reaction at the end is what hits you.
Yeah. And that's the last thing too. Because they've been adding these the previews for the New Age of Heroes. So it feels like there's much more to go. And as I'm reading it and I get to the last page, I go to turn the page and there's nothing else there. And I was like, oh, man.
Yep, that's
what a cliffhanger to go out on.
No, I agree. Back when I was on physical issues, I used to have that problem as well. You'd feel like there's a lot more book left, and you'd get to, there's a 5-page preview or something at the end, so you're actually finished the book already. It's like, damn it! So that was a thing. But yeah, I think we'll do that for Detective. But I thought it was a really strong issue. Anarchy aside, I think it was a really strong next chapter. I think the last 3 issues total, including this one, have all been great payoff to everything that's been building up in the book.
I agree.
So no, and then the art's pretty strong. It's not Gary Frank strong, but it's pretty strong.
Oh no, but any other week though, I think we'll be saying that a lot through these. It's unfortunate that Doomsday Clock is the same week as a lot of these good ones.
Yeah. But so that's Detective Comics. That'll take us on to Action Comics 996. Dan Jurgens writing, Will Conrad on the art. This is, obviously we left last issue. They went through time again, but now they landed in a Zod-controlled planet of some kind. It doesn't seem to be Earth because there's multiple suns.
Yeah. And we find that out real quick that they are sometime in the future, somewhere that Zod has taken over.
But they do not know when or where, though. They don't actually know.
No.
It's implied that it's not too far in the future because it seems like after Zod got his son and what's her face? Ursa, thank you. When he got them out the Phantom Zone, it seems that after that he went to another planet, conquered it, and this is this planet years later.
Yeah,
and obviously,
Krypton.
And
new Krypton.
New Krypton is what he's calling it. But that would mean because at the end of the book, the big cliffhanger is that his son Larzod. I was going to say Larzod. I'm thinking of Laron the werewolf, the Kryptonian werewolf. That's what I'm thinking of. But yeah,
also known as one of the coolest characters ever.
Yeah, Larzod is like an adult. He's like 20, 30, whatever he is at the end. So
he's got a sweet beard and hair combo going on, like better than his dad ever did.
So I'd say it's about 12 to 15 years in the future. Based on what age he was when we seen him as a kid when he came out the Phantom Zone.
Yeah, which means like either he comes across some kind of Kryptonian technology, because this is a thriving planet, right? And it looks like Krypton, but you find out that they've kind of enslaved the people of that planet.
Well, that's what I mean when I say, where is this? Because obviously it's New Krypton, but like what turned into New Krypton? Because this has to be a civilization that was already there. So I think that's interesting. There's a lot more of the Lois stuff in this issue with her trying to sneak into this country to save her dad. And
I'm really not enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm not either.
I want to.
Do you know what I think my problem is? I feel like it feels too
shoehorned. It feels like I needed something for Lois and John to do while Superman's, time traveling.
That's true, but that'd be okay if it felt like more of a typical Lois thing. I feel like this is such an extreme thing. Like, Lois is sneaking into a country and trying to save her dad, and she's like fighting soldiers at various points. And I'm not necessarily saying that I don't think Lois could handle that situation. It's just that for what is the side plot to this other story going on, it feels too heavy and like big.
Yeah. I agree there.
And there's a lot of John like following the shadows, going, "Well, Mum, if you don't handle something, I'll be here." But he's just kind of in the shadows, doing his thing. So,
but I love Booster and Skeets in this interacting with Superman. You kind of find out that Superman's like one of the greatest heroes of all time, but he really can't handle time traveling. Like he can't not disrupt the butterfly.
I do like that, because it kind of like they find out this planet's enslaved and they're pretending to be like part of the population for a little bit, and it goes all wrong by the end because Larzod shows up, and I presume we're going to start next issue with a big fight, but. Basically, Booster's like, hey, you don't have to save these people, Superman. Like, if we go back to our present day, we'll stop this from ever happening. It doesn't matter. Yep. And Superman's like, but they're in pain. They need help. And it's like, but it'll be erased. They'll never go through this. So I like that kind of debate there, where I don't want to say he's dumb, but it is almost like a stupidity thing here, where he doesn't accept the idea that this will just never happen if he just goes back and fixes it in present day.
Always the best description I ever heard about the difference between Superman and Batman came from Dan Didio, surprisingly enough. And he always has said that Superman's a firefighter, Batman's a cop. One's very proactive, one's very reactive. And Superman's very reactive. He really can't do his job until something has happened. Versus Batman, who's actively trying to do things, to prevent things from happening. And that shows that here is he is reacting to these people in pain being enslaved, but so he feels like he needs to do something.
I like it because it's a natural weakness.
Yeah.
It's a weakness in his character. And Superman doesn't have a lot of those because he was very Boy Scouty, of course, and he does everything right. It's nice that he has. And it's funny because it's one of those weaknesses where he's just almost too good. He can't not, but it is a weakness. So it's something.
And he has to learn from Booster, who's rough around the edges, going like, "Hey, I do this all the time. Take it from someone who knows." And it makes Booster seem kind of like a jerk, but he's right. This is a future that might never exist.
Yeah,
you're playing with the stacked deck.
Yeah, Eradicator's there as well. Of course, he's been helping with the list because we knew he was with the Zods. From the last time.
I love how they take it out, and then Skeets goes not undercover, but masquerades as one of those security drones.
Yeah,
and is animating the Eradicator, and he's like, "Guys, you know how hard? I don't need your bickering right now."
Yeah. He's complaining because they're bickering about time travel and saving people. Yeah. No, it's good. I thought this issue was. I think overall I'd say it was okay. Like I like some of the ideas. I didn't like the Lois stuff very much. I think the art's just okay. Some of the faces were occasionally a little bit sort of bland in their execution.
It was fine. It's kind of an uptick from the last couple issues.
Yeah.
So I'll take that.
It's basically an encapsulation of how Action Comics has been since it started, where there's some good, there's some bad, there's some really mediocre. It's kind of all over the place in that sense. But it's still, if you like Superman, you're worth sort of working through it and reading it. But it's never a standout, I don't think. Well, not usually anyway. There's been maybe one or two standout issues.
It's been baseline, and that's all I can ask for as a Superman fan. It's a fun read. I enjoyed this one. So, and that at the end with Lord Zod, and of course you get the Neil line and all that. So, nothing will top Find Him.
That was funny at the start, where the drone kept saying, "You will kneel before Zod. You will kneel before Zod," and eventually, like, Superman just snaps and starts smashing the shit out of the drones and the robots. So there's some fun stuff in there, but it wasn't like a standout issue by any means. So that's Action. That'll take us on to Wonder Woman number 39. James Robinson writing with Emanuela, Lupacchino, and Carmen Carnero on art.
Oh, the art.
Art's
Lupacchino.
Nice. Yeah, art's nice.
Love it. Story's great. And then Jason shows up, and you're just like, enough of him.
Well, this is the thing. The Silver Swan stuff, I'm still enjoying. I like the fight. I like that throughout the entire fight, she's like, "Oh, I'm not her anymore. I'm Silver Swan." To the point where my only criticism is that she makes the same mistake twice, where she says, "My mom," and then corrects herself and says, "Oh no, her mom," in third person. And I like that once. I didn't need it twice. Twelve felt like it was like forcing it down my throat a little bit, but.
Yeah,
minor
pay
quibble.
Pay attention. Yeah,
minor quibble. But the actual fight looked great. All the fight in this poor little neighborhood is getting wrecked. Even more so when Jason decides to show up, and he has no concern for collateral damage. He's like, "I'm going to make a tornado." Like, Jason,
this is cool, right?
People live here, Jason. God damn it. But
this guy.
The fight was good.
What I wouldn't trade for him to trade places with, or what I wouldn't give for him to trade places with Hercules. Just in that short, 3 pages, Hercules showed up at the beginning of Robinson's run. I instantly connected versus this guy who we've been stuck with now for 4 issues. And I'm just over him.
And of course, it looks like Silver Swan slits his throat at the end, but he's clearly still alive. They're not going through with it. I almost popped though when she did it though, and you just see the blood coming from his neck. I'm like, yes, kill him, quick death.
Good.
Yes.
At least he won't be able to talk for a little bit. I think that's what I took from that.
That's some truth. Yeah, he gets bored cleaning up Wonder Woman's apartment because remember he wrecked it last issue with the parties.
Yeah.
And sees it on the news that she's fighting and decides that he wants to go and show her a real hero does it. He's a little shit. Yeah, Jason's awful. The Darkseid stuff was whatever. I did appreciate that he because he's in the jungle on Earth, and Grail's questioning why we're here. Why we're not in Apocalypse? And he actually does acknowledge continuity right now. He says, Apocalypse is unsafe because it's had some rotating leaders, and it's it's referring to the Lex and Superman stuff. And I'm like, okay, all right, it's nice they're acknowledging that. It's not feels part of the same world. That's cool. And he's like, all the loyal people will be tested. The loyalty will be tested when I deem it appropriate. Is basically his thing. and some of the Furies show up, and they're off to steal the next artifact that he wants, because that's what was happening before. He was stealing artifacts, and Steve and his guys are protecting something, so they get into a bit of a fight. There's not a whole lot of that there, but it's kind of stuff that's been bubbling over since the start of his run, so worth mentioning, I guess. The fight's good though. It is most of the issue though, is the fight, so it reads quite quick in that sense. One of the dark side pages is over texted to shit. There's like far too many bubbles, but most of it's very dialogue light because it's mostly the fighting. And the fight did look good. I like the fight. I'll say that. So it's not a terrible issue, but god damn it, Jason, I could be doing with less of him.
Eat tornado. That's what I just like.
That's it. I really like, after the tornado happens and he thinks, oh, that'll be her. I like the panel of Silver Swan. You just see the wings, and then her face is completely in shadow.
Yep.
And you just see the eyes.
She's taking cover.
Yeah. That's a really creepy image.
Very Bird of Prey.
Yeah. And we end because Wonder Woman cuts one of her wings, which causes some sort of explosion, and they're all falling through the sky, and that's a cliffhanger. So it's an okay issue. The stuff I like. Definitely, this arc is much better than the previous arc, but it still has the lingering Jason problem.
And it's great to look at, because now that's 2 in a row with Lupacchino.
Yes.
So
I'll put money on her not being on the... I could check the solicits and tell you, but I'll put money on her not being in the next one.
Yeah. Well, it seems about right.
Yeah. But hey, what can I say? It looked good, and I do like the Silver Swan, so I can't completely fault it. So it ends up being in a similar place to Action, actually, in that way. Whereas stuff I like, stuff I don't like, just kind of falls in that kind of place.
Yeah.
But that'll take us on to the Flash number 39, aka the Flash 700, written by Joshua Williamson, art by Carmen Giandomenico, if I say that properly.
He's back.
He's back, for issue 700. And Joe, I'm going to give this issue credit, because I feel like we had obviously these issue 800 and 700s for Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman about a month or so ago. They were a little bit earlier, and I do want to say, none of those issues feel like they made a point of making it feel special because it was a 100th issue. I feel like the Flash actually kind of did. This felt like a kind of notable issue.
Yeah, it felt like a milestone issue.
Yeah, it did.
While also continuing Williamson's story, because it goes back onto some of the things that have happened since Rebirth, and even in the Flash's history before. And we get some cool guest spots, which I'm always a fan of. In these issues.
And it builds the shit out of Grodd. It really makes him feel big. It's Grodd with Speed Force, which is absolutely terrifying.
Which I like. That was one of the things that I liked that they introduced during Manipul and Buccellado's run in the New 52, was that the gorillas, it's not just the meteorite, but they also kind of worship the Speed Force. And that Grodd, who is supposed to take over as king, feels like Barry has usurped his speed power, or his Speed Force power, and that's what draws him to the Flash. And we kind of find out that Grodd's been behind Black Hole this whole time.
Yeah, we find out that the god Rajin, or whatever his name is, he's been working for him. Mina's working for him. The doctor guy gets assassinated in this issue because he was going to talk to whoever. Yeah. So he gets assassinated. Kid Flash and Avery. Yeah.
The Flash from Justice League China.
And they even referenced that. He says, hey, what are you doing here? Aren't you busy with the Justice League of China? And she's like, oh, no, I got a bit of time off. But, I was happy to meet the Justice League. And she references recent events. That's pretty cool.
And she tells Wally, you should really come to China. Like, Flash was just there, and they reference what had happened. Which, anytime they can, put a spotlight on New Superman and the Justice League of China, I'm fine with.
And the first few pages really do a good job of setting the mystery, and it's Grodd monologuing about power and how people worship it, but it's time for the true owners to take it back. So it's all nice build up. But I actually liked the issue because we ended last issue with Barry trying to talk to Iris, and most of this issue is Barry like, hey, I want you to forgive me, I want us to be friends again, and what's that going to take? And she's like, hey, we'll talk about us, but I need to know everything about the Flash. You need to be honest about everything. And it's him okay, so I'll tell you how I got my powers. And she's like, oh, please, I'm a reporter. I figured as soon as I found out you were the Flash, I put together all the early bits. You get struck by lightning in the lab, this happened, blah, blah, blah. And she's just, so we get one page of that. And there's some fun stuff where she's on the watchtower, and he's like, hey, like, yeah, this is the Justice League watchtower. And obviously there's that really great funny line where she's like, hey, do you know who Batman and Superman are? Because if you do, you could tell me and I could script Lois Lane. And I'm like, okay, that was a funny line. I'll give you points for that, Williamson.
Well, I love that Barry too, being like the Boy Scouts, like, those aren't my secrets to tell.
Well,
like,
no, no, that's a good point. Yeah, and she can't argue with that because it's not his secrets to tell. I do like the idea though that if she does someday find out that Clark is Superman and that he's married to Lois, then she'll be like, damn it, my scoop! I thought I was going to scoop her and she's known this whole time.
She's going to be pissed because it's going to feel like, you know, they work together to keep that facade up, and she's going to be like, come on, guys. Well, journalistic integrity.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's funny because I like that, like, if she says, Lois knows about Superman, like, well, she does now, but she didn't always. Like, the early days of Superman were always the, you know, the weird love triangle where she didn't, Yeah,
and I want her to get all caught up on that and go, well, you know, Barry's, and you're not going to say anything, right? So why would it be any different? Like, I you know, I like what it sets up there. Yeah,
obviously we like Carmine on the art, but I want to particularly point out the colouring, especially when they're in space. I like how the blues and purples of space kind of contrast with all the reds and yellows.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a really nice contrast. And then it all builds up because you basically eventually Barry's like, okay, I'll tell you some more stuff, and he's talking to Iris, and then Grodd's and it's the same narration boxes we got at the start of the issue.
Yeah,
and I kind of obviously we knew Grodd was coming, so I assumed it was Grodd anyway. But Grodd starts talking to him in his head. It's like he can hear his narration because he actually references what Barry was just thinking about. Because Barry says. Because Iris is like, okay, you need to tell me everything. And Barry does this cool thing in his head where he's like, okay, I'll tell you everything, but am I really ready to talk to you about the fact that there's another Wally West and where he comes from? Because I don't even know where he comes from, really. Like, we're still trying to figure that out. So he's just thinking about telling her that, and that's when Grodd comes in and says, hey, I know your fears, Barry. Like, you want to tell her this, but she'll never, because you know the Flash is that's the only thing that makes you interesting. She'll drop you. That's what you're worried about. And I'm like, oh, Grodd's doing his telepath thing. This is exciting. And it all kind of builds up. But it's a really cool moment. Again, talking about the colouring, I loved my favourite page of the book is probably when Grodd starts talking to him and time slows down and there's all the snow or the rain slowing down around them. Like, I can see this in a kind of movie or in like an episode of the TV show.
Where you have to move the rain out of the way like a curtain. Yeah. And it's like he's there and he's like touching the raindrops and he hears like the crack-a-croom, the lightning across the city. And that's when he runs into, Multiplex is there with Mina, Raijin, and Speed Force Multiplex. Let's not sleep on that.
Oh, true, yeah. Multiplex has Speed Force. Yeah. Speedster Multiplex. That's a very good point, Matt. Thanks for making sure we mentioned that. And then you get the Grodd hand coming in, grabbing him, and we get a big final page of him on his throne saying, he's here for the Speed Force. The Speed Force will finally be mine. My life depends on it. Which is very interesting. My life depends on it. That's a very interesting sentence to end on.
Well, he looks much older than he has before.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if the Speed Force has done something to him to age him.
Yeah.
And if this means we get to go to Gorilla City and meet Salvar and all that stuff, sweet.
That could be good fun.
Giandomenico drawing more gorillas, I'm fine with.
Yeah, I love this issue. I want to make that clear because I think we've been very positive on Flash. I think typically, but always like, oh no, it's like a consistent B+ book. It's always a B+. Very rarely is it in the A territory. I feel like this issue. Yeah, this issue was one of the best issues that he's done. And it's capitalising on a lot of stuff that we've been building up to. The stuff with Iris felt important and great. I suppose you could sort of roll your eyes and be cynical and say, well, I mean, she's found out he's the Flash before in previous continuity, but it feels pretty important in this continuity.
Out of all the characters who had their stuff changed, it really affected Barry, like post Flashpoint.
Barry and Superman are the ones who really got shafted. And Superman got a lot of his stuff back because of Rebirth, and we got Lois back with John and all the rest of it. Whereas here Barry was still kind of putting these pieces back together. So yeah, it's nice to have her finding out. It's nice to be getting closer to the Barry and Iris we kind of want. And yeah, obviously we love Grodd as well. But
of course.
I think what I love about this issue though is how it treats it with such weight. It treats like Grodd like this threat. And when Grodd invades on his thoughts, we feel it as a reader because normally we're the only ones getting their thoughts because we're getting the narration boxes. So having another narration box pop in and reference what the other person just said in his narration box is kind of magical.
It makes him feel omnipotent. You
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
It's really effective. It works really well. And then the art's great, of course. Like I say, that page with the slow down rain's fantastic. The page with Grodd's hand coming out and grabbing him, fantastic. No, I am oozing praise over this issue. I think this was a great issue. Great issue of Flash.
I agree.
So I'm very excited to see where this arc goes and if they can maintain this upper level of quality. I mean, Tom King got a lot better in Batman as he went along. There's no reason why Williamson can't, also.
Yeah, well, I feel he came out of the gate like, I didn't want to make a speed pun, but he came out of the gate fast, and it was really good early on, and then he had to settle into it and then rebuild it, and that arc with the Rogues where they were stealing stuff concurrently.
That was good.
I really enjoyed that.
Was really good. Yeah.
And then the Shadows Realm stuff, and we've gone up and down. And now with Mina as the negative Flash and Multiplex, that he just turned it up to 11, and we'll see where that goes. And we have Avery and Wally teaming up, and I'm sure that's not the last of the team ups we'll see.
Oh, I'm sure. So I think it's I feel like it's been up and down a little bit early on. Like I say, that Shadow stuff was probably the weakest of the whole run. There was only 2 issues, admittedly, so it's not a big deal.
Exactly.
But I think it's been getting more consistent as it goes, and then it feels like it got consistent, and it's been consistent for a while because we had Blood Work, you had Negative Flash, you had all this stuff, and then it's ramped up into Grodd for issue 700.
And don't forget Reverse Flash, Professor Zoom, all that stuff too.
Oh yeah.
So
it's been good. But no, I actually think this might be the best issue of the run so far.
Yeah.
I came out of this feeling really positive. I think this, and then that first issue of that Rogue arc where he's in like what country was it? He was in another country, like stopping this big heist, but it turned out they weren't actually there. I really liked that issue. That was a good issue.
Yeah. It's good too.
Alright, so that'll take us on to Batgirl number 19, Hope Larson writing, Chris Wildgoose on art, which apparently is his last issue. I think I saw him on Twitter this week saying that he was sad that he was leaving Batgirl for all things. Your mic's going, by the way, Matt. But he's been pretty good. Obviously, we all loved Albuquerque back at the start of the run, but Wildgoose has been a solid.
Yeah, he's kind of been the definitive Rebirth Batgirl artist.
Yeah. Because
it's been so consistent.
Yeah, it took maybe 1 or 2 of those one-shot issues off, but he's been on the arcs since after Albuquerque left. So, this issue... Now, let's get the first thing out of the way. The arc is called Cold Snap. I came in ready for the myth, the man, the myth, the legend.
Blazing. And when I got through this, I just had a small chuckle going, well, Pete's about to be disappointed.
The man, the myth, and the legend that is Cold Snap was not in this issue. He may still show up, but I feel like the title's just the pun for the because there's cold stuff going on, not because Cold Snap himself is going.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what it is. Is that the story revolves around a freak blizzard in Gotham and Burnside.
Yeah,
which you could call a cold snap. Like,
oh yeah, because there's even a joke where they say, "Oh, it started to snow a little bit." That's weird. The weather didn't say anything about that. Well, hey, I'm sure it's just a quick little few speckles. It'll be gone by noon, and then it cuts to that double page spread where the street is just covered in snow, and there's like kids sledding and all sorts, and then the Penguin starts sledding because he likes the snow. Fun. Yeah,
he's in his natural state. This felt, and I mean this in the best way possible, like an episode of a cartoon series.
It did actually. Joe, I'm surprised I like this so much, but I love the little bat parka that she's wearing with her suit.
Yeah.
When it's cold. It's got little bat logos on the shoulder. I like that her cape still comes out the back. She's got the furry hood. And she's got a scarf on. I really like. I prefer classic look Batgirl, but I actually think this little jacket worked well with her outfit.
Yeah, it has a function. It's keeping her warm, and it makes sense,
I just does it all look good.
I'll appreciate on a character level the fact that Babs takes her coffee black, like that.
Hey, more than that, I appreciate that Babs shows up to save a donut shop in the middle of the night and then eats 4 donuts before she leaves. That is, that's my Babs.
And we get a little bit of political commentary in this, but also we got commentary on the hipster community, for lack of a better term. And this donut shop opens and it's competing with the mom and pop shop, which, and I feel it's kind of a take on these donut shops. Like, we have one here and they made a key lime donut, and I love key lime pie. But some things just need to be left alone. Like, we don't need a key lime donut. And so I like that commentary. Like, the mom and pop shops it's still killing it because they're simple donuts.
Yeah,
while
well,
this other one is doing too much.
I feel like the commentary there is more to do with like franchises trying to like impede the little guy.
I guess there's that too.
Yeah.
You can pick on that, but
I love how you went super specific though with your types of donuts though. I appreciate the thought process.
Maple bacon donuts have become the bane of my existence because it seems like such a good idea, and then in practice it has to be like there has to be different factors at play for it to end up being good. And yeah, but
I'm a fan of many a donut. I do enjoy the Oreo donut with the Oreo cream inside it. That is really nice. Good stuff. But anyway, so yeah, so this donut shop's been robbed. She shows up and helps. It turns out the thugs that are threatening this old couple are basically actors who have been hired to just like do this. And as soon as Batgirl shows up and threatens them, they basically just buckle and like, please don't hurt us, we're actors.
Yeah. And they're not good at that because they're hitting every gangster movie trope. Yeah, get out of town. 22 skidoo. And all this, and I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, and then Babs even has a little joke with them where she pretends, oh, that's okay, you were just pretending, oh, you leave. And then they get up to go, she's like, oh, shut up, I was kidding, I'm a good actor too. Yeah. You're staying here till the police arrive. And then we find out the next day that she had 4 donuts. Babs, my hero. My hero, Babs. You aren't it. But so the plot is that, so we have this freak snowstorm, and because it's so suspicious, and the mayor is like, Penguin's okay. He's basically keeping the city, the town of Burnside going. So he's okay with Penguin hanging around. But she goes to investigate why the blizzard's so weird.
Yep. And you find out that the mayor appointed this new, like, he's kind of control of getting the weather message out, but you find out he's a climate change denier. So
yeah, they mentioned
Babs,
that.
of course, has problems with that.
Talk about getting political, by the way.
That's what I want to get at, and I like that it does it here, and it's kind of in the Percy, it's over the top, but it also feels cartoony, so it drives that point home.
Let's not gloss over the fact that Babs has her own bat snowmobile. Can we talk about that?
I mean, she runs a tech company. I would assume she has all sorts of custom stuff.
Oh, sure, but we turned the page, and she's arriving to the building in this snowmobile that's got like the bat fins at the back, and I'm like, oh man, she has a snowmobile. Like, does it snow often enough in Burnside and Gotham that she would think she would need a snowmobile on a regular basis? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Especially since she normally has a car, so I'd expect a little snowmobile, like the little bike version. Yeah. But no, she has a full-on bat car looking thing.
Yeah.
Snow Batmobile. Bat Snowmobile. White Batmobile. I don't know what you call it, but
I don't know, but it's cool. Like, if this was the golden age of toys, we would have had a toy of this.
Yeah, so she goes to the AWA, the local office, which is the American Weather Association. I learned something there. Thank you, Batgirl. And apparently, basically, she finds out that there's some fun stuff where the guy's really impressed that she's good at hacking and like building computer code and stuff. But she finds out that someone's hacked in and stopped everyone from knowing what's going on, and it's all a bit of a ruse. It references the Batgirl annual with Supergirl because what was the villain? Spur. There you go. She finds some evidence, a little spur, literally a little spur that leads back to them, and she remembers she ran into them with Supergirl, and she goes on her snowmobile out to their hideout and takes them on. But they've just been playing poker. They've been doing nothing.
Well, that's not poker. They're playing a full-on board game.
Oh, you're right.
That involves government processes because these guys are basically the Ron Swanson of supervillains.
I thought it was Risk actually. Now that you're bringing it up.
Yeah, but it seems to me like it's a Risk Settlers of Catan kind of board game where there's government policies and you have to get around them in certain ways. But no, the way that they're talking, so they're cowboy themed and they're red, white, and blue, and they're basically.
I didn't even realize they were red, white, and blue until you said that. I just know. Good catch. Good catch.
Yeah, and so they're basically about smaller the government, the better, and that's what they were trying to do. It's not necessarily they're trying to ruin things. It's their philosophy that the more government's bad. Yeah. And they're not a serious threat.
Speaking of this being more of a cartoon episode, and I mean this in a positive way. So one of them has like a star, like a branding star. They put it in the fireplace. They're going to brand Batgirl with it, which is super dark almost. But she sees it coming and then kicks the guy into him, and the bad guy in white gets branded in the ass with a star.
Right, and because it's snowing, he goes out and puts his butt in the snow.
Yeah, that is Home Alone. That is proper Home Alone comedy.
That is, right? And
It's
so
slapstick.
And we find out that these guys are more buffoons than anything, and they're not behind it.
Yeah.
You know?
Pretty much, and it may all be a ruse. She kind of figures out that the spur might have been planted, and our friend Quader was sort of bragging earlier on. He got a new job, but he's not allowed to tell them what it is. It's all kind of top secret. But he sends her a text saying, "Hey, bad guys are trying to break into this secret government facility that I'm working at. Here's the location. Come and get me, please. Help." So that's the cliffhanger. She speeds off in her mobile, because this might have all been like a ruse to get her out the town, and to just steal whatever's at this building. She doesn't know what they're there for. That's a mystery still, but we'll find that out possibly next issue. It's a really weird issue when I actually say out loud what happened in it. Like, donut theft, Freak Blizzard, the Spur gang, and everything in between. But I had a lot of fun, so I can't really complain.
It was so much fun. Like, it goes beyond. Like, I had a lot of fun. A lot of fun reading it, and plus with the Wildgoose art, it has that cartoony vibe.
It does, yeah. Just
the way, like with Red, White, and Blue of the Spur guys, just like in their interactions, it feels, it just felt right. So I'm sad to see Wildgoose go, but we'll see who picks it up.
I think the solicit for the April. I don't know if this is who's going to be on it next month, but for April, I think it was Zhang who was on it, Minkayu Zhang.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So. No, so
they did the Harley issue last, right? That one off to Christmas.
I think so, and the art was good in that. I mean, we weren't too fussed about the story, but the art was good.
Yeah.
If I recall correctly. But I don't know if they're doing arcs or if that's just like a one-time thing in April.
Yeah.
But so that'll take us on to Teen Titans number 16. This is a fill-in issue. Percy's had a couple off because the last one was the Super Sons crossover, which was Tomasi, and then this is a one-shot issue with Marv Wolfman and Tom Derenick, who's on art. Percy does come back though because he's in the solicits for the next issues. So this was just a quick fill-in. This is a Starfire-focused issue. Get your jokes out of the way, Matt.
No jokes. No jokes. I've made enough.
Okay. So this is a Starfire issue.
You did recognize who's on the cover, though, right?
I did, yes.
Okay.
It caught my eye.
Sure.
And there's a little bit with Beast Boy and Raven, and it's this issue is kind of about her feeling self-conscious because she thinks she's too old for the other teammates, and the other teammates, like, because they say something to each other at one point and she doesn't hear, and she says, "Oh, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, there's young people stuff, you wouldn't get it." And then she feels self-conscious, and that's kind of the plot of the issue, is she goes off and gets into a fight feeling self-conscious. And then, by the end, it's like, "Oh no, we were just being embarrassed because we were talking about something stupid." And it's like, "Oh, you guys." And then I didn't like this issue. This was bad.
So when I heard about this, and it was Wolfman coming back to write the character he created, and it was going to deal with the relationship between Beast Boy, Raven, and Starfire, because they're kind of the Lost Titans, they're not in the big leagues like Cyborg, and they're not, they're not sidekicks, so they don't have connections to other heroes.
Yeah. By the way,
I'm excited for that.
That's I just wanted to mention, I've just spotted the variant cover for this, which I didn't notice before. Did you?
Pretty cool.
Yeah, for some reason, so you've got Starfire with Beast Boy, who's in human form, but all the rest of the Titans are all animals with the costume. Yeah. You've got a leopard with Kid Flash's outfit on. Or maybe
that would be a cheetah.
Maybe a cheetah. Yeah, cheetah. Cheetah, leopard. Big cats.
No, leopards. No. We're going to have a biology lesson real quick.
God,
cheetahs are built for speed. They don't have retractable claws like normal cats because their claws are like track cleats, and they're designed to run at short bursts. Leopards are primarily bigger, bulkier cats that live in trees.
But I'm not nuts though. They have similar designs in their fur, right? Similar colours.
Spots, but I mean that's where the similarities end.
Well, I'm just saying that's why I made the mistake. It's not like I wouldn't say it was a tiger. I wouldn't say it was a lion. No. I wouldn't say it was a panther.
It's a cheetah.
Oh, it's a cheetah. Okay. Yeah. Now I get it for the speed reference. Okay, I get the cheetahs are the fastest ones. All right, I'm not silly.
Well, and then you have a seal who looks like Gus from Saga, and the only reason I know that is because people love Gus on the internet.
Yeah, he's wearing Aqualad's outfit. Yeah. We have an actual Raven with Raven's little hood on, and you've got a Robin with a little Robin outfit on. So well, it's convenient that those two actually had animals in their name, so they just got those animals. That was nice and easy.
Exactly, that's fine.
So you're saying you were disappointed?
I was disappointed because I thought this was going to be something that deals with these three Lost Titans, and it just basically ended up being a refresher for Starfire's origin, which that's fine. I feel like some people might need a refresher. Even I need a refresher because I forget how she came to Earth and under the circumstances.
Yeah,
But
it obviously it's changed a little bit with New 52
yeah,
and
yeah,
where are we at? What's the status quo with this?
yeah. So basically, she's from Tamaran, which is a warrior planet. She's the princess, and her sister are sent to another planet to be trained in the arts of war on Okara. And if you remember from Green Lantern, you had Fatality. I think she was one of the warlords of Okara. So there's precedent there. And Tamaran ends up getting invaded by these guys. They're not the controllers. That's from Green Lantern. Who are these guys? Do you have it in front of you or no?
What, the book?
Yeah. These reptilian-looking aliens. I can't remember their names.
Hold on. I'm on the page where all the people are getting techno-controlled.
Yeah.
And they're blasting at her, which it turns into the big fight, of course. Where are we?
I'm looking.
Were they the end? Oh, there they are. Oh, I see them. Scions. There you go.
Scions, yeah. So basically, she gets traded to the Scions for basically them to leave Tamaran in peace, and they do these experiments, and it augments her already. She already had alien powers to process sun, but they supercharged it, and that's why she can fire star bolts, and it's all stuff that it's familiar if you're familiar with Starfire. It's just the way that Wolfman writes it; it's very stilted. Dialogue is very 80s.
It doesn't feel like he had an idea and he wanted an issue because of that. It felt like they asked him, hey, we need a fill-in issue, can you quickly come up with something? And he just kind of rushed this out. Because the main plot of all the humans getting possessed by the Scions with all this tech, and then Beast Boy and Raven are also possessed with the tech and fight her. So we get a bit of fight with them.
But it doesn't even matter because in a page, she solves it and then nothing happens.
Yeah,
with Beast Boy and Raven.
And then they hug each other and they're still happy with each other. I don't know. That's just like it felt like a fill-in issue that really feels like a fill-in, where it doesn't feel like because not all fill-ins are bad. Sometimes, one of our favorite issues of Batgirl, this run of being in one of the fill-in issues, essentially. It wasn't. It was the same writer, but you know what I mean. Like, one and dones can be good. There's nothing wrong with a one and done story. This was a bad one and done story, and Starfire's whole thing, where she feels like, the younger team members don't want her around, and they feel
she's 3 years older than them.
Like, well, that's not even my problem. My problem isn't even the existence of it. My problem is that this has never been remotely hinted at all in Teen Titans. This is just this is a new issue that comes out of nowhere, where she just all of a sudden has this fear. That was my first problem with the book, but
again, that's what I get for getting excited over a level B character in Starfire, and that variant cover is great though.
Yeah. The regular cover is pretty good as well, to be fair.
Yeah. And I felt the art didn't do any justice either. It's not my kind of art, so it's kind of generic and it looks fine.
It was okay. It was very house style, I guess. Is how you'd put it. But yeah, so Teen Titans number 16 is not necessarily... obviously, if you want your numbering to all be filled in, then get it. But honestly, it's kind of skippable. And will probably have no bearing on anything that happens in future issues, I imagine. Unless the Scions come back. Which, by the way, the Scions look very... like cheap Doctor Who villain kind of, or Star Trek villains kind of.
Big time.
To them. Look, it's comic art, and yet it feels like a rubber mask. Whatever. Anyway, so that's Teen Titans number 16, which will take us on to the last book of the week on this epic show. And by epic, I just mean the length. Not that we've done the best show we've ever done.
Again, I made the joke before we started. This is our 80-page giant.
That said, Connor's not here, so is it better by default because Connor's not here?
Imagine if he was here talking about Doomsday Clock. We'd still be talking.
So, yeah, Nightwing the New Order number 6, the final issue of Nightwing the New Order. Kyle Higgins writing, Trevor McCarthy on art. So this is the final issue. What did you think of the ending of this?
I felt like we could have had another issue. Everything gets resolved way too fast.
I agree, it felt rushed. I think they were going for this big dramatic moment where... basically, Dick's son says, hey, I wish I could be your Robin. And then he explains what he means by that. Because he's been watching old footage of like Batman and Robin when he was a kid. And he's like, because Robin kind of reminded Batman of optimism. He was the light that reminded him what he was fighting for and kept him like his mind in the right place. And he feels guilty that he's not doing that for Dick, where Dick can see the hope and Dick can see the world where why we should have superpowers back. And Dick, has this, it's this dramatic close-up in his eyes, and then like 2 pages later, he's there to help fight all the villains. I say villains, but you know what I mean, like Batwoman and all her cronies that are there to capture them. And I'm like, okay, that was very quick. I feel like that could have done with some more like build up to that big turn. And then on top of that, there's a whole new idea that's introduced where Lex turns out to be like... So I do like the idea that once Lex is the one who does the tech that gives Superman his powers back, I did like the moment where Lex says, "Oh, now I'm your god." Like, that's very Lex Luthor. I like that. Then immediately he sets the place to blow up, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not doing what you want. I'm not going to have inequality. I'm going to give powers to everyone." But he essentially becomes the villain in like a page turn, and I'm like, this is a fine idea, but we've not had enough time with Lex for this to land for me. No. It feels too rushed.
Yep, I agree with everything you just said, and I was enjoying this so much, and I still don't buy the reason that Nightwing turned. Like, we got bits and pieces of it, but I would have loved like even just a flashback that established a lot of these things and why he feels so strongly, because I feel like he does feel the world's better off without powers. He feels justified. Like, that was what that whole thing with Tim was early on. I would say that was in issue 3. And here for him to turn because his son basically asked him to. I'm just like, oh, this is rough.
I like the idea that what appeals to him is the whole idea of comparing what Robin was for Batman and what he was for him, because he can understand that.
Yeah.
I like that. It just happens far too quick. And I actually agree with him. I complained a little bit in the last issue that it was starting to come back round, but it was really starting to bother me. Like, I never really could understand why Dick would have done what I mean, I get that his opinion would change and he would think maybe the world's better without powers, but actually doing the thing he did where he set off this bomb and it killed so many people, I still don't quite buy that. Or Dick Grayson, and this is a Dick Grayson who at the end of the book is redeemed and he's at a school teaching. It's basically Xavier's school for the gifted, but for metas in DC Universe. He's at the school training people and teaching them how to control their powers, and I'm like, this is a nice idea, but you made him do this heinous act in the past that I don't know. I feel like he needs more comeuppance in this.
I agree, especially like again if we would have had more issue of him with his doubts, like did I do the right thing? Maybe powers are a good idea. Maybe it's who has the powers, and if we can train them to do the right thing.
I feel like, given what he did in the past, I think he had to die. He had to go out sacrificing himself to like save Superman or something like that. I feel like that's what had to happen, because
I agree. I agree.
Unfortunately, I think it's. I mean, it's not a terrible issue. Like, I don't think it's a terrible ending, but it just feels like the easy ending.
Yeah, and I don't feel like it spoils the rest of the series, because I like a lot of the ideas that it brought up. Considering when it got first announced, I was just like, nah, hard pass. I don't like the idea of a fascist Nightwing. But the story that he told and what he did with his son and how the Titans dealt with it. And plus we got like Barbarian Superman.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of cool stuff happened here. And I just kind of bummed that it ended the way it did.
And that's the thing. Like, Lex does his whole thing and they have to like, lift up part of the city because the bomb's like this big thing underneath the city. And they deal with the problem. And Dick's son helps, and that helps with everything. And then, like, they never actually go and get Lex. They never like go and arrest them, or even like he kind of feels that Lex just get away with it and is off somewhere.
Yeah,
it's weird. I don't know. I did like Lex though when he sort of deploys his robot fleet. It's like someone says, "You've got robots." He's like, I wouldn't be Lex Luthor if I didn't have robots. So that was a nice moment.
It did make me miss Higgins writing DC, though, because I was a big fan of his Nightwing run, and I kind of missed that. And I know he's having fun doing Power Rangers right now, and that's all he talks about on Twitter, but, I wouldn't mind seeing him back.
Yeah, I mean, I was never completely sold on the concept of this. I thought it was definitely interesting enough. I had a lot of good ideas throughout the series that kept me interested in reading it, but I did have some doubts last issue, and they've kind of been basically solidified in this final one, where I think it was an enjoyable enough read, but it felt a little bit too easy for what it was doing. Like, if you're going to sell me Dictator Dick Grayson and sell me that he did this thing, he needs more comeuppance. You need to sell me why he made that choice in the first place, and I don't think the book ever really did that. it took the easy way out in a couple of places, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. The really easy way out.
Yeah. So, and they never really went into like a lot of the ideas, like how Lois ended up with a blue ring.
A Blue Lantern.
Yeah.
And I did love that scene though with John, and she's like, "John, come on, you know how this works," and she ends up ramping up his power and using it against him. I thought that was cool. That was the most Lois I think she's been. So.
Yeah, that was cool. I do think the epilogue scene, because we find out that he's been like recording like a book the whole time. For his son to one day like listen to, and then we find out he's got a baby and he's named him Richard after his father. And I thought, okay, this is okay, but it feels like a really generic epilogue. Like this is the very generic. Oh, in the future, this is the end of Harry Potter. Oh, they've all got kids now.
No, it is, and they're all named after somebody they admire. Yeah, you know, like Harry's got a kid named Albus Severus. Like, could you be more on the nose, man?
Very on the nose.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
So, not bad, but just a little in the easy side, I think.
Yeah. Doesn't really stick the landing it was going for, but that's okay. It was a fun ride while it was going.
Yeah, so a little easy. Kind
of like Lost for me in that way. Like, I really enjoyed the ride, but the ending, I'm like, okay, I guess you can see that. But
yeah, the ending wasn't the best part of Lost, clearly, but it doesn't ruin the show for me at all.
No.
Yeah, I like Lost a lot, so I can understand that comparison. But that's Nightwing in New Order, and obviously the art's been consistent all through the issues because it's been the same artist, and it's been generally good, but not great, I would say. Yeah,
I will say too that the cover game was really strong when they looked like more propaganda posters, and now over the last 2 or 3, so the back half just kind of became comic book covers, and that's fine. They still look great, but not the same feel.
All right, cool. Well, that's the best. The last book, if I can speak properly. I'm getting hungry. It's time for dinner, Matt. I'm not gonna lie. So that'll take us on to our favourites of the week. We do moment / panel of the week. We do art of the week, cover of the week, and we do obviously top 5 books. So starting with panel / moment. So what panel is it from Doomsday Clock and why?
Yeah, right. So mine, it's going to be the easiest for me. And
go on.
I thought about this. It's so packed full of everything, but it's when the mime finally unleashes his invisible gun. It's that moment.
It's hard to argue with that, Matt. It is really hard to argue with that. That is a fantastic moment. I equally love it. I do. As well as the smile on her face, Marionette's smile on her face.
That's a good one too.
We get to the end of that whole massacre. I love that. That said, though, I think I have to go with a bit more emotional. I want to go the panel of Thunder, Johnny Thunder.
Yeah.
When he's looking out the window, when the movie mentions being without family. It's worse at Christmas time, being without family. And he says, but I wore my best suit. I think the sadness in that face, combined with the line from the movie, was just a really sort of, oh shit, this is what they're doing here, like moment for me, and it really hit. So yeah, I mean, arguably the later stuff when he's turning away from the window and the movie keeps playing, and then the window's just empty, arguably also that. But basically, Thunder whilst the movie's playing and he's really upset. That stuff was just working for me. So that's panel / moment. What's your best cover of the week?
This one's tough because I like a whole lot of the variants more. And
I'll be honest, Matt. I've been thinking of lifting that rule.
Really?
Because I feel like why specify it when really it's just about picking the best cover?
Yeah, right. Like
I've had doubts. I've had my doubts. I've been thinking about shifting the rule.
Well, if we are going to do that, the Batgirl variant, I thought. I mean, they had a good regular cover, but the Batgirl variant I really liked.
I like the variant as well. It's her on the rooftop. She's got that kind of like sort of like hunched down pose. Yeah, it's a good cover.
I like that. I also the Doomsday Clock variant I think is much better than the just. I understand why they went with this one.
Yeah, because obviously the beer from the can exploding is kind of like a Rorschach ink blot. Yeah. That's kind of what they're going for. I have to agree. I prefer the Batman holding the journal cover. It's really pretty.
Yeah. And same with Teen Titans. Like that with all the animals is much better than this. And as we discovered on this one, I do love Starfire, but this cover is kind of blah.
Yeah, I think I'm going with the Doomsday Clock variant with Batman and the Journal.
And then I'll go with Batgirl. Just have some variants.
There you go.
Yeah.
Because I think it'll be interesting to see how often we pick variants or regular covers. Like, how often are the variants better?
And let me say, it was very hard not to pick the Frisian Wonder Woman cover, because those have been top notch going through. But I just think this week those other ones just grabbed my eye.
That was good. So best art of the week. So Doomsday Clock, Matt.
Yeah, easy. It's got to be.
No, honestly, there's nothing that really battles it this week, because I think there might be some week 4s in the future.
Yeah.
Where maybe there will be another book that says, no, hey, this exists too. But I think it's head and shoulders Doomsday Clock's winning. Gary Frank is doing phenomenal work on that.
Not that it was close, but I did enjoy Flash's art. Like,
I mean, that's probably my second favourite of the week, is the Flash art with Carmen.
And then Wildgoose is Batgirl. That was, and then of course Lupacchino. Like, it was a strong week for art, but not Gary Frank strong.
Yeah,
that's
solid. I feel like in a week, if Gary Frank's Doomsday Clock dropped in the same week when we had like Janin on Batman and we had Cedric on Aquaman, like if it dropped in that week, then okay, maybe we've got a fight there. But this week I think Frank's taking it. So top 5 books of the week, Matt. You get to go first.
So number 1 with a bullet. And I mean that as in fired from the mimes.
As Teen Titans.
No, is Doomsday Clock. Number 2 is The Flash. I'll just say Flash 700 because that's fun to say. And number 3 is Batgirl. It's a whole lot of fun. Number 4 is Detective Comics for all the payoff. And then number 5, this one was the more of the difficult picks here. Oh, man. Is it Action or is it Nightwing? Or not Nightwing, Wonder Woman. Oh, I'll go Action. I'll play into my Superman bias and make Action number 5.
That's fair. Doomsday Clock number 3 is number 1, of course. Then I'll agree Flash is number 2. Then I'll go Detective and then Batgirl, 3 and 4. Number 5 is harder this week because I feel like Action, Wonder Woman, and New Order all had problems, but they all had good elements as well. Yeah. I think I can't give it to the Jason stuff, so I have to go with Action. Like I wanted to, because I like the art in Wonder Woman, but nah, Action doesn't have anything as bad as Jason, so Action gets the 5th spot.
Not at all.
So there you go. I feel like we're missing one.
No, that's all mine.
Oh no, because Teen Titans sucked, so that wasn't in contention. Because there's 8 books, why is there only 3 more options? But it's because Teen Titans just sucked. So there you go. Nice and easy. So there you go. Those are our favourites of the week, which lets me tell you what's coming next week. And of course, this has changed a little bit because the Swamp Thing book got pushed a week. So what is coming next week? Now it is actually kind of a meaty week, even with that missing, because we have Dark Knight's Metal number 5. So we get the next Metal issue. It's been a while. We have Detective Comics Annual number 1. We have the Flash Annual number 1, which is the tease for Flash War. That picks up properly in May because obviously we're getting this Grodd arc first, and then we get to Flash War. But this annual is the tease, the setup for Flash War.
Cover is fantastic.
We have Deathstroke Annual number 1. I don't know if you want to read Mystic U number 2, but that is out next week. I'm
not going to, and it's probably going to make Connor upset. But I've made my bed. I've made the decision. That's not for me.
That's fine. Yeah, I didn't like it, of course, the first issue, so we will not be covering that then. But, I mean, Connor might read it, actually, so I suppose that may be covered.
So talk about it.
We have the next New Age of DC Heroes book. The Silencer number 1 is out, so we'll be trying that out. So that's coming next week.
JR, Pete, get ready.
I know. Also out is the JLA Doom Patrol Special number 1, which I'm not sure if we are going to cover, mainly because none of us have been reading the Young Animal stuff. That said, I do plan on catching up in Mother Panic based on Jodie Houser's involvement with that. But
that's cool.
But I think we'll be having to give this Milk crossover thing a miss, just because we've not been familiar with the Young Animal stuff since issue 1's.
Doom Patrol broke me, so I'm not.
I'm interested in going back and reading that in trade when
that might be better.
But most of the books are on a break right now because of this crossover, so it's a good time to maybe catch up on the ones you want to read if you wanted to.
Maybe I'll catch up on Cape Carson. I'll go check that out.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
That's changing its title actually when it comes back.
Is it just Cape Carson now?
No, because before it's Cape Carson has a cybernetic eye. I think the new it's still Cape Carson has a something eye, but it's not cybernetic anymore. Cool. It's like a supernatural eye or something like that.
Okay, fine. That's cool.
So it's something like that. There's another word before I.
Yeah.
But no. So that's what's coming next week. So it's not a
Yeah.
big in terms of numbers, but we have 3 annuals and a metal issue along with a Silencer debut. So there's still plenty of stuff coming next week. For us to dig our teeth into, and no doubt Connor's going to want like 10 minutes of here's what I want to talk about Doomsday Clock since I wasn't here, because
that's fine.
Because you know what he's like. He did say to me.
We'll tell him it's recording and we just won't record.
Yeah, he did say to me last week he'd send me his top 5 before we were done, but he's not, so you can blame Connor for not sending that in. So I could
Connor.
tell you. I know, he's a menace. But that does bring an end to this epic length episode of Comics from the Multiverse, with good reason. We had some of the biggest news we've had. We had Doomsday Clock. The Doomsday Clock conversation on its own, I think, was over 40 minutes. Which I can't fault, but here we are. So that has been episode 88. We always appreciate it, and remember, episode 100 is coming up in March, the same week as Action Comics 1000. I'll remind you more closer to the time what that means, but exciting. So also let us know what you thought of this week's books in the comments or on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast, of course. You can get me at Wibble89, get Matt at Matt of Steel 57 for individual Twitters. Get us on patreon.com/MailerFuzzTV if you want to support the show and the channel, and unlock bonuses and stuff. The next bonus that gets unlocked, it's a little while away, but it is comics based. It's to do with Hellboy and our resident Goatman Tim taking a few of us through the Hellboy comics once a month, if we ever get
Tim.
to that.
He gave me the forever green light, and that really upset Pete today. So.
Yeah, forever. Just to be Matt, basically. He says you just green light whenever. You can do whatever you want whenever. And
well, because we were joking that I was just going to talk forever today. We kind of did, and I said, like, I asked Pete, "Do I have the green light?" And Tim goes, "I give you the green light forever." So anything he can to undercut the Scotsman.
Yeah,
kills me.
the unprecedented green light forever was what his wording was. But that is us. That is episode 88. Yeah. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Give us your thoughts on, of course, Doomsday Clock and all the books. Give us your theories as well as what's coming with Justice League and No Justice. Give us your opinions on that. Of course, lots of fun stuff to speculate. But that is us. So thank you once again. Keep reading DC Comics and always remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
Nathaniel Dusk is my hero.